what would be relevant? What can I put on the website that's helpful to people? Checklist. I don't know. But that's, I want the program to be relevant and to matter. And then there should be some benefits, and there's been some discussion, and I don't even know if it's an effect yet. Like if you're a level D race director, you get an extra 10-cent rebate on something that I don't remember exactly how it works, but there needs to be some benefits. And the agency, the organization supports that we don't have that in place. So I think this gives you a good outline of how I see my job, and I think a lot of work needs to be done. I am happy with how the website is going and how the information is being cleaned up. The phone calls I get now are not about how confusing the information is, it's about the stuff, like what people want and what they want the education to be. So I feel like it's progress. So that's what I have to say. So I want to hear from you what questions you have and how I can help and where you think this should go. Someone over here had a bad experience. I'm not sure if he can speak for you. No?
No, he's pointing.
He's pointing you. Maybe you can tell me what that was.
Well, there were a couple of things, and it might have been you, Cindy. I can't remember who I communicated with Colorado. And at that point, I said, as opposed to kind of venting and saying things to you, I'll wait and do something through our association so that we can be more constructive. But at the time when it came time to reapply for the permit for our event, and having promoted the race for the last 15 years, when I go in and start to go through the process, and it appears that I can do everything except register a competitive event. There was nothing that told me, oh, the reason the competitive event is not here on the list is because we haven't gone through this race director certification. And so I became a little bit as opposed to wonder if we know the factoids of the chronological age of a kid, and that's
That question's not there anymore.
okay.
We changed a lot.
And then another one of my favorites was the race director is responsible for medical, who should be responsible for medical emergencies? Not the race director because he has other things, or yes, the race director because they're responsible for everything. That was a great question as well. But I thought that just as the initial rollout, it was a fairly frustrating experience.
It was terrible.
It
was terrible. It's okay to say that. It was terrible.
Well, it hit last year, and so I thought I was going to fly, so I went to Duby to do curriculum, studied it, passed the test, no problem. And it was like, well, it's too much confusion. I'm going to require permission. And I've learned 1,000 times more from the officials and running people than I would have taken a test on test isn't making sure that you know the basics they have, but there's a way that they solve it successful. Isn't
The other idea that goes with that, last year, the credits, continuing credits, well, that was my second year. I went through, watched the videos and looked at the CAC, and I'm still shy of credits. So I looked and found out, my EMT license would give me some more so I could get it. But it took me 2 weeks to finally get them the facts and take my EMT license to give me permission to put my race online. It's like, you make me jump through hoops like this just to put a race on. Why are we doing this?
That's a good question, and I think that's what we have to keep thinking about is, okay, what's the
Because the
purpose?
continuing credit should be, hey, you just promoted a race, you should get credits for putting a race on. If you get a,
you know, get a report back from the rep who ran the event that would give some feedback to USAC, saying this, you know, this promoter did all this right. Some kind of rating, would you get credit for what would be, you know, a way to say you ran a successful event? That's the number one thing.
especially when you do multiple events, you should be able to watch, guy did 5. This name won't continue it, because race didn't do anything. Instead, you just jump through hoops and say, wait, you're still doing this. Oh, by the way, you're missing it, so we can't do it next year. Really?
Well, I put that, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the things I want to talk about. I want to find, like I said, I created a certification program for probation officers, and it was very similar to this. The new probation officers, they were excited, because here was a way for them to learn information that they needed. The experienced probation officers were not excited. So we found a way to exempt them from some of the requirements, and I think that's probably appropriate too. But I don't know what today's saying, and I'm interested in what you guys say. You said something about.
I think the number one thing would be you ran a way to evaluate that you run a successful event is worth any amount of continuing ed. And I don't know how you measure that.
It seems like, you know, when you get your chief rep report after the event, the chief rep sums up, you know, what went well, what didn't report. So if there's a way,
What is that?
does it go tomorrow? Yeah, it usually goes tomorrow. Yep. So it seems like that's a great feedback mechanism. Because if the chief rep has all these problems with your event, then
This guy should be promoted.
yeah, it's kind of your report card, really.
I like that.
You know, you got to make sure that you give your chief rep a beer and lots of praise.
Well, see, that's where you run into problems.
I say that facetiously, but yeah, assuming that the quality of chief rep reports is good, that seems like a good feedback. So if Mike has 5 chief rep reports every year that are like, boom, you did everything great, then it doesn't really need to get recertified. It seems like,
Well,
what's going on?
Words to use. There needs to be something in addition to or other than CEUs or other activities like mentoring, for example. We already count mentoring as CEUs, but it's just something that we kind of started doing. There's no real structure to it. And I don't want to get away from the value of education. And like I said, even an experienced race director can learn. So I'm kind of torn on how far to go one way or the other. That's completely open. And that's why I'm here and why I appreciate you guys being here. Because I want to hear from you. I only did races for 8, and they were small, not my races. Road races are so much more complex. And are all you guys road races? Cyclocross. And those are complex too. But I really want to hear what you have to say. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I like this idea about the report we get afterwards, because that should be pretty all encompassing as far as like all the logistics that you can take care of. Even if you don't do something with that as far as CEUs right away, but if there's some way to track that information, find out where are the gaps, where are people regularly falling down and why, then you know that's the type of education you can provide. So maybe to start tracking that
That's
first.
huge. So it works 2 ways. It can be and the way to exempt CEUs and to identify training gaps. Gaps.
That might even be an issue that's not like an issue with race promoters. It might be like there's a lack of resources to get enough volunteers or to get the right, you know, medical help that you need there. Like whatever it is, that there's a pattern. It might be that there's some systemic problem, and then provide tools to provide better access to that education.
That's great. I like that a lot.
probably the single biggest continuing, I think, we continue to do that we benefit both new racers, new promoters, and experienced promoters is what are the rule changes? Because each year it's like, okay, what changed?
I think that was one of the things in your notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I find out from the refs, oh, by the way, this rule changed this year.
On one of the local association emails that we had sent out, we had gotten a lot of feedback and it was starting to get a little noisy. And so I wanted to send out a longer email back and said, here's what I think we should be doing. One of the suggestions I made was for that the C level to be a very basic certification. And then B is where you start getting, you don't get your first with the C like we were talking about. Things like that. Like, if you want to step up to that higher thing, then you can go do that and get those certifications. But
About rule changes.
so as you know, we were worried about CEUs. People were like, I'm not going to take any continuing education. It's like, well, just take a new rule somewhere so you do know what's happening because things change. The rules change and there's stuff that we can control, stuff we can't. We never had to worry about iPods and races before. Now we do. Like it's never to worry about phones. It's something you have to worry about. Like so you get headphones in. No, that wasn't. What was it?
Incredible time.
Perfect.
You didn't do Britain, the chief referee in hockey, take the camera off.
This year?
Yeah. No cameras. Hockey had to go back to his home, his camera off.
Yeah, I was there.
The senior games.
Okay, all right, I was
2
there.
weeks ago. It was, Julie.
Good. All right.
She wasn't bad.
But it's that sort of thing. Like there's we're all really experienced, and there's a lot of us who feel like we know what we're doing. We can always learn a little bit more. There's always room for that beginning of the year. Like, okay, this is the new rules that have changed. This is we've upped the Cat 5 field limit to 75 from 50. So just want to stay abreast of things. I thought a modicum of CU was.
And along that same line, what other kinds of information? Okay, I'll come back to this.
I've heard the word, I'm looking at the website right now, because my race is in September, I haven't thought about this at all. So I was just looking at the website, and it said for little B, I'm looking to take my event to the next level, higher level. I don't know what this higher level is of which you speak, because it's not said anywhere. If you want to take a race to the next level, I really don't, because I don't know what that is. People are happy with my race, so what is this next level, and why do I care?
That's not been done.
Perfect. It hasn't been developed yet, really?
I don't feel that it's been.
So why is it?
What it says is.
Why is it then being promoted as something that I should aspire to if it hasn't been developed?
Yeah, well, I'm
Ta-da.
gonna now. I think there's value there, but it's not really, there are actually people who want to do that because they want to learn more, they want to learn. And again, it's mostly new people because they're enthusiastic and they're inspired and they're like, well, let me learn some more stuff. And we actually have a series of 10 webinars that make you be a level B race director.
And how much are these webinars?
I think they're all free. I've been to them all for free. When I know in the beginning there were.
I mean, that's not even on here. So I mean, you know, just on this one page, from a usability, functionality, from a usability perspective, that's not even on here. It says 10 webinars. Okay, fantastic. What are they?
Well, they're about safety issues, course design issues, how to recruit volunteers. Let's see if I can safety, course design, volunteers, sponsorship, getting sponsors, working with civic organizations. Those are the ones that I remember right now. But they are like a brand new race director. A lot of times to help somebody put on a race and they decide they want to be a race director, like I did.
Okay.
And then I just need to know the basic rules. You know, what rules do I have to follow, what permits do I have to fill out to put on my race. And then this is level B is really intended, I'm joking around, but it's really intended to help you have a better race, to design a better race that attracts more people, that helps you make more money. That's the goal. But it's, in my opinion, it's not very well developed, and I haven't gotten there. I had to start at the beginning
Right.
and start clearing up any
And
information.
those things event specific, because for instance, when I put out my form online for my cyclocross race, that's about, closed roads. Not applicable to me as a mountain bike director. You've experienced this, right? Where you're filling out the form is basically road centric. So I'm assuming the webinars are probably going to be more road
Actually,
centric.
we have a really good, cross race course design webinar up there.
Okay.
There's a guy out here, Shauna, the girl's named Shauna or Shanna, and I forgot the guy's name, but he did a really great job. That one is actually $15, $14.
Sarah, I want to give you, but I want to just jump in really quickly and kind of answer Gary's question a little bit. Since I started the race director program right at the very top with that national international, when we had originally started talking about this, level B was going to be a national cross count, like what they call the national calendar race, which nobody ever really does. It's supposed to be that precursor to a UCI race. So it's sort of like an orphan thing that's sort of sitting in there.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, right? From local to national to
Right.
UCI, kind of a stair-step development.
Right, and the problem is, specifically across is we don't have that middle tier yet. It was, I was one of the guys who really tried to shoot that down. But it was, when they were trying to get rid of a lot of UCI races, they were trying to push events like Rainbow into that tier so that you wouldn't be UCI, you'd be national calendar. Of course, when Butter wants the UCI or nothing, down east, those guys, it never really got traction. So that's a little bit where it came from.
Okay.
Just as a
I attended, and this is well before your time, but I attended, I think it was the race director, at that time, no one knew about it. It was 2013 in the fall. I'm the race director for the Mayor's Cup, so we're an NCC race. And we were obligated to send someone to the race director training. A few things, and I'm not sure if this is still how it works. I have to admit, I'm not up on all the current changes, and you weren't in at that point. But as an NCC race, we had to send someone to this race director's seminar. There was no ability to do a webinar or anything. It ended up costing the race probably about $3,000 to send me because you have to pay for hotel, you have to pay all this stuff. So I certified at that point. Then we were told in 2014 that we had to send someone again. I think the first time it was down south. Last year it was in Oregon, I think, in Bend. And I'm trying to tell the board, you got to spend another $2,000 or $3,000 to send, someone out to the certification that you just sent me out to, 12 months prior. And from here to Bend, it's a $600 plane ticket, $400 seminar fee, hotels, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand, an NCC level race is a premier level race, but at the same time, I don't think that's sustainable. And I think, I have to answer to people on that board, and I have to say, you need to spend this money to send me to this again. And they say, well, why do we have to be an NCC race? They aren't racers. So, I have to bring everything to them, and I have to validate, this money that's being spent. It's not an insignificant amount of money by the time you're done paying for travel, airfare, et cetera, et cetera. And additionally, again, you weren't involved at this point, but, I went to this willingly because there was a lot I needed to learn, admittedly. And I just did not get the value from it at that time that I wish I had. There were still basic things that weren't covered. I'm not sure because I was newer if everyone just assumed that everyone knew these things, but I sat 3 days of meetings and maybe felt like a couple hours of that was useful. So moving forward, 2015, am I gonna have to tell those guys that, you know, we have to send someone out to something again to the tune of $2 or $3 grand? And honestly, I didn't feel like it was worthwhile the first time I went, so I didn't go last year. They actually gave me some buy. But that also speaks to the CEU issue, and I come at this from a coaching standpoint as well. The CEUs, believe me, there's a lot I need to learn. There's a lot we all need to learn. But I'm not sure who vets those CEUs. And I don't want to spend money just to get a CEU because I need to get a CEU because I need 15 CEUs. And, you know, I've looked through some of the coaching CEUs. Admittedly, I don't know as much about the race director end. And I see some of these people that are putting the CEUs on. And sorry, but I don't know that anyone should be paying for some of these CEU webinars or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there has to be a better CEU vetting process, and I'm not sure how you do that. And I think, you know, if you're, I'm not sure, you know, I guess I'm a level B race director, but if that's an obligation, if that's a requirement to be an NCC race, then I have to be able to tell the people that are putting that money out that they need to put that money out and it's worthwhile, or else I think you're going to start thinking races.
Thank you, that's all very
Sorry.
good. No, that was very good. And what's something that's really important to me about what you said is that you said you didn't get any value on the conference, and that
I wouldn't say I didn't get any,
Well-
but I think it could have been a lot more valuable.
and that's really important to me, and that's actually where I really come from. And my dream of dreams and my vision, the training that we provide should be something that you love, that you want to come to, and that you're happy with. I'm currently planning a conference for the race director. It's not really the race director conference anymore, but it's this October. And this year, we're actually bringing together officials, race directors, and LA representatives all together, because for me, it makes sense. All of those groups of people work together to put on races. Seems to me they should all be the same training, and there's a lot of overlap. I'm sure there's probably guys in here that are officials and race directors, and here on the LA. So, you know, there's a lot of overlap, and I'm really excited about this conference. But for me, I really want it to be meaningful and we've been working on an agenda that should go out soon. And I'll be very interested in comments. Still flexible. If you say this sucks, then tell me what you think would be better. I really mean that when I say that. I really want it to be good. It shouldn't be just a waste of your time, just an action that you're taking to check off the boxes.
So are you still requiring those NCC levels that are races to attend? Is there ability to do I mean, in the age of video conferencing, I understand you want everyone in one place, but at the same time, I mean, you know, we could save $1,500, you know, in hotels and airfare if we did an online, 3-day webinar online. I mean, I understand that's not the same experience for sure, but I just think the requirement year to year needs to change somehow. How do we change that?
I can understand the cost. I do know that is Mike Rice is my boss, and I know that's currently still misunderstanding. You know, what if it's every other year? What if it's every other year?
Well, it's less money than every year.
Just throw that out. I saw 2 hands.
I'm got a still connection. I'm going through webinars right now. It's not on here. I'm just going to suggest one. It's not on here already. Is especially for cross, especially for bigger events, is demonstrating economic impact for local communities.
That's something we've been talking about a
Huge,
lot.
because this is one thing that I actually helped out Gregory Gloucester with, doing a survey, an economic survey. They were getting so much heat from the local community over damage to the park. And that's something like that, I think, would be prime central to what race directors need, because it goes back to information outflow to the local communities. it's going to be a question, why are we bothering this event? What does it matter to our local community? Well, here's the impact that we can show it to you right here's the data.
Stephanie and I just talked to Micah about that yesterday. So, but my question is, how do we do that in Colorado Springs? Doesn't that have to be done locally?
What, the survey?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, but there's ways of forming partnerships and relationships with local institutions very often, or people who have know-how. I mean, you have a standard instrument, right? It's not very hard to do. You don't have to recreate the wheel in terms of, I know you guys have done,
So a template.
for Bend, you guys did the survey. I did a survey for Gloucester and for some other races. I mean, you can have a basic instrument that you can give to people and have them do it either through SurveyMonkey or some other mechanism that they can have the data, right? Data both for the economic impact and also the tendencies of the interests of the participants. For instance, one of the things we asked in the survey, 15 criteria, which ones are most important to you in selecting a race? And what the last ones were? Prize money and pros at the race. No one cared.
Is it somewhere online? I have to read it.
I can send it to you.
That'd be awesome.
So for me as a race director, do I care about having high prize money and pros present? My participants don't care about it. What they care about is a fun course, close to home, good parking,
Exactly.
things like that. So, trying to get that kind of feedback from participants over what it is they want, and also how the race is not, if not helping economically, at least not damaging economically, right? Not like my race is not going to have an economic impact for my local community, but Gloucester certainly is, right? Or races or provinces certainly is. So trying to help race directors with managing that kind of information for the local communities would be something I think we're all going to have to think about someday, at least demonstrating no harm done, especially for cross races. Because this is our number one concern, right? Is it's going to rain, they're going to tear the hell out of the place, and they're going to kick us out. Luckily, mine is on private property, is the buses. Anybody else, God love them. If you're in a public place,
Like Austin?
I'm not saying, I just said it, not me. Yeah, they're gonna kick out of the gun club, and they have guns, so you really should be concerned. So things like that, I think, you don't already have it, which I guess you don't, would be key. And I think USAC can be helpful, or at least other race directors who do that can be helpful in disseminating this kind of what approach can be used for race directors to help them out. It doesn't have to be terribly extravagant.
A
But
template, some sample questions.
exactly, and or at least a tutorial on how to use online services that are already available, like SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics.
Thank you, yeah. We talked about this yesterday because I've been hearing that a lot. People, because I ask people for their feedback and they say, I could really use, one person called it the business model, but he was saying, I need to be able to tell my city council why they're going to let me have a race in a month.
I've done it for 4 or 5 races, including ultramarathons. And,
Tell me your name.
Gary David.
Dave.
Last name is David, first name is Gary. So it's not complicated, but I think the issue is how to connect race directors who don't know how with those who do know how.
Yes.
And maybe it's USAC, maybe it's not USAC. Maybe it's just making them available to other opportunities in their local community, universities, colleges, whoever. There are other people in other parts of the country who can say, and I work with people in Montana, or like Wyoming, I think it was, other races, and say, okay, I can help you with doing this. I can have to travel there.
I don't want to jump ahead of the gun because I'm going to talk about, that's a lot of what we're talking about in our local association, smaller working groups. And that actually came up. So if you have any of those for those kind of ideas, funnel them for him. He's your best asset to funnel to USAC because we are looking, one of the questions was, what tools and services do we need? And that was, we want to become more like a better information, like, hub that we can report to give to you guys when we're paying your business.
With that being said, and I'll give you an analogy. I come from the Chamber of Commerce industry. What they've done is they've set up a Facebook page, a closed page just for chamber professionals. And there'll be a chamber executive out in Colorado saying, hey, we're doing this networking event. How do I make it purple with pink polka dots? There's someone in Florida that's done that. And so they share the information. I think it would be great for you guys on your end of it to come out and have whatever kind of page you want to call it, but utilize the social media, because if he wants to find out what he did in his state, and he did something successful that he doesn't know how to do, is sharing of information, but that also gives you input on your end on what they're looking for. So things you can design programs and webinars and all that stuff, right? Is that what you're going to say about it?
Well, we're trying to work on, we have a list this long of what we want to do.
How long?
One of them is having sort of regional based Facebook group, curriculum community 4, to where everyone can join and sort of do that information
But
share.
it's a closed group. So in other words, you have to be, but see, not just race directors, because I'm a marketing guy for the Longstreet race, but what you just said hit a vein in me, economic impact. I've been praising, $4 million economic impact. How do I prove that? So now I can go to this sponsor and say, hey, I need $50,000, this is why. So if I can get information from Joe in California who's done that, that's a phenomenal informational sharing that you can provide.
And I was just gonna say, I don't want this to come across the wrong way. It'd be really good if USAC in that capacity was social brokering and not trying to own it. Right, to say, okay, we can connect you with someone else somewhere else, because the perception is gonna be, if USAC says, email us and we'll give you what you need. The perception may be amongst some, or many, that, oh, there goes USAC again, right? Rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. Number one, we don't have time to do
Right.
the whole monitoring, so it would be great for you guys to go.
Exactly, so USAC serves as that hub, then it starts to build, like, oh yeah, USAC hooked me up with someone off in somewhere else, and then it's great, versus I gotta go deal with USAC. Right?
Yeah,
It's informational sharing for the people that are doing it. But that gives you an idea of putting your finger on the pulse of really what's happening.
So see, there's already this page on our website for race directors. All of you guys that are certified, you get that little red thing, you click and there's this page, right? That's already a secret page that's available to any race director that is not kind of like a level B, in my opinion, is not developed. Is this the kind of thing that we could put on that page?
I think, yeah, I think some informational resources there, but are people gonna go to the page? Right?
What would they go to?
If they see the value, they'll go.
Yeah, I mean, they might not go to the page until they have a question, and then they want to know, rather than going to the page to click on that, to know to go click on that, and then to go click on something else, find something else.
But see, that's why I say Facebook more than the website.
That's why.
Because if
yeah.
we're in the same group,
Right.
and you say something, I get notified that you just said something in that group. I'm gonna go check to see if it was valuable.
So you guys are on NEBRA, do you already have a Facebook page?
They have a website. There's NEBRA website, and I was going to say, like, one of the things that I can do for NEBRA is I can help connect you, and I can help you find those answers. One of the reasons they hired me,
Right.
To be that conduit, to go out there and connect the people who've already solved the problems with the people that are at the problems.
Do LA, I don't know the proper term, leaders, does LA leadership, is there a Facebook page or something like that for LA?
I don't know if
leaders?
there's a Facebook page for LA leaders, but the working group, when we get into that, this is a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about, the same things that I'm hearing from other LAs, and when we talk about the LA working group process, this is, one of the questions is, what are the 3 biggest things you're facing in your region? And what are the things that we can change? And so it sounds like a lot of what's coming out in this room is what's coming out in other LAs. So we're all roughly on the same page, and maybe a little different particular questions, but.
So there is that, the Google group, the LA Google group, is that a good information sharing mechanism? I'm just asking, what are.
The Google group, I think, can be a good information sharing thing.
But it doesn't have all of these.
Yeah, it doesn't have all of us, and even though we're doing it's easily hijacked by people who are just naysayers. So
No.
no, really? You know,
So
I know.
No.
So we're on the internet.
I'm so disheartened.
So it is, it can be a challenge to sort out the noise there. Where, you know, if we can establish well, I got a question about race to my LA person, and if they don't know the answer, they
Or they're LA.
right. You know, in an ideal world, my administrator job wouldn't be doing anything except connecting dots. You know, I'd be taking somebody who has a question and going and finding the person with the answer. And as one of the jobs I want to do with the NEBRA website is get some of that stuff up there for you. Hopefully, you have to do this as well.
Wouldn't you want to hear some of that negative stuff?
Yes.
I would think you'd want to learn
Yeah.
what so you can put those fires out if they're fires.
Negative can be good, but I think there's something about, and I will be asking on Facebook a lot because of this, there's something about internet and email that you can get overwhelmed really quickly. And so I think that's why closed page, where
Closed
people
group
are
works.
somewhat vetted. So if you get somebody who's screaming and yelling, you can kind of go, well, that's just that guy who screams and yells a lot. And it's, you know, maybe there's something to that, but so I do think some sort of a closed group or a vetted group is more important.
Because one of the things you said a few minutes ago was, well, the way it's set up now, they go to you and then you find the answer. I think it's more beneficial if it's the closed group and they share that with themselves, okay? Because even the time delay, if they come to you and say, hey, I got this problem, how do I fix it? You have a life, you know, okay? But there might be someone else, again, in another state, that, oh yeah, I've done this, this is the answer, bam, you still come out the hero, because you were the conduit to that conversation. Right. So I think it's much more productive as an industry if you let the people who have the problems and the answers share amongst themselves. And again, what you just said, you're the host.
Yeah.
Because you're going to learn as well.
Sure. And we already have a Google group for New England promoters. So if you guys want to start sending that stuff out to that list, trying to make it more active, that's certainly an option that we already have and we can start right away.
I mean, how many, just a quick show of hands, how many of you guys go on Facebook? Use Facebook? Answers that question.
Everybody.
Answers that question.
I think those are rules.
But I mean, it's
Facebook's
utilize Facebook for what you can use it for, not the BS that a lot of people use it. You know, use it as a strength for your organization.
Closed. You have to make our closed.
Oh, absolutely, it's gonna be a closed loop,
Well,
no
yeah.
question.
And so that's, you know, maybe we set up a group within user page for promoters and do that rather than Google.
But if I comment, the rate we started at Google promoters is, I think there's been almost no dialogue between promoters in New England amongst each other. There's been no information sharing. I think maybe in some cases people see each other as competitors. I absolutely don't see anyone as a competitor. I see that we all have races and racers, create a ecosystem of events. But I don't know if there's maybe a little reluctance from some promoters of like, well, this is almost my trade secrets. I found these things that I want to share. Like, I don't view it that way at all. Like, I don't know whether other promoters might.
I know I can think of one right away who's definitely shut down on sharing stuff.
Yep.
With good reason, but
But if 90% of the people are sharing, everybody.
yeah, and I think at the level of events that we're talking about, you know, this is UCI level cross race. So, you know, for local events, basic stuff, yeah, I mean, they're really
What can really work around the framework of a timeline for the, I'll call it grassroots spaces, right, like ours? Because that's what we're concerned with. We have that end date where everything's got to be ready to go, and we work backwards from that. So if we could set up some kind of a timeline that everybody can access, especially at the grassroots level, you have a lot of race directors cycling through. You know, people do it 3-4 years. It's like, you know what, I'm done. Someone else is going to step up in your club or whatever we're doing, and now they got to learn it from you maybe first year, right? But they're gonna be green the second year when they're doing a solo, and they need a reference. So like, it's August, what do I gotta do? Well, a timeline, right? So if your race is October 12th, you start at the beginning, 6 months out. What do I gotta do? What do I gotta start thinking about? Who do I gotta ask to help? Do I get a volunteer director? Do I need someone to start doing some sponsorship? And when you have that timeline within it, because it's gonna be on the internet, you have links that go to say rule changes. You know what? Your Cat 5 field has to do this or that, and there's a little thing, check here if there's a question or whatever, and it pops up a USAC rule. Pretty easy to do. I mean, it's a time-consuming thing, but there's a resource that can be shared, can be modified over time. The experts can contribute to it. So, you really ought to do that a little sooner, or you should put this in. You want to get food truck. Really basic stuff and really complicated stuff. And I'll be in that. That'll be like a FAQ that you would just go to.
On that point, just to riff off what Russ was saying, from a design perspective, what if on the website it had the timeline? You bring what's the date of your race? September 28th. Not 6 months from now, but the date 6 months from now. What you need to get done on down the road, and then you had your webinars hot linked to those different time periods in the timeline. So I don't need to go fishing for a relevant webinar on some other page. I can go to this one page, and it will say, okay, finding sponsorship 6 months out. That's the webinar. Whatever course design, 2 months out, or whatever it is. I can click on that. So the webinars are synced to the process model you're basically building over the course of time that you have to think about developing your event.
I love the links thing. One thing to think about though is the timeline is different for everybody. So you know what I really want? I really want people to volunteer to let me post their timelines and their planning documents on that same closed page that I mentioned earlier with the red button. Because if I could get different people, and several people have already seen it, and just post up, examples, and so maybe sure you're supposed to plan a race a year out, but maybe I just decided to do one and I only have 60 days, and I can look on there and find somebody else that does their race in 60 days, and still see everything that I have to do in that 60-day period. You know what I mean? So if I can offer options to people, that's what I really want to do. I really want to give people tangible stuff. But that's what they're asking for. They're saying, I need budgets, I need checklists, I need timelines. That's what people want. But I really think that I need to get multiple options. Because
Well, it all goes to something I was told as a first year engineering student. Engineers don't know anything. They know where to look for the answers. But it has to be coherent, it has to be concise, it needs to be easy to navigate, right? But it has to all be there too. So you don't have to go casting out, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Is anybody here? Can anybody here answer this question? Kind of thing.
which is how it was for me.
Wait. You want to be able to drill down and get the answer.
Find it. Just find it. That's what I really want. That's what I want to do.
So, what your goal is, you want to be the place people know where to go to get the answers.
And I think that we already have that. We have that page. Because I don't think stuff that people have worked hard to develop should be just available to the world. But if it's available to bike race directors, I think that's a very good thing. And I'm so sorry you had your hand up for like 30 minutes. Tell me your name again.
My thing was still the licenses. Last year when they first pushed it out saying you need a license to put races on, that was category B. Now I did all this stuff because I don't want to pay for category B, they say, well, then you're category C. But you're also a champion.
This is permanent.
No, for a coaches. Coaches
Race
directors. So I want B to a C, but then get a champion. I don't know what champion means as a director. I show you my license.
What race?
I put on the bottom orders. Actually, no, it's not speaking. The bottom is what
So is it a UCI race or national calendar?
Nope.
It's a local race?
Yeah.
Then all you need is level C.
Right. That's why I haven't paid for it. But now I'm becoming a champion. So I'm a champion director. I don't know.
Congratulations, yeah.
Category champion.
Oh, that's
Yes,
certification.
You're a winner, yeah.
Here's
You
your
won a
medal.
badge.
Here's your medal.
Race director championship.
So I'm gonna be a champion.
You're a
I went from a B
What is this?
to a C. I'm a champion.
I've seen that before. I'll go on Facebook page.
Oh, so are you going to
Championship series, state championship series, I have no idea what that is.
I want to be one of
Don't
those.
take it away now.
You worked hard for that. I want to be a champion too.
Those are questions, because they should have done it, so, hey, you gotta be this, so me being proactive, okay, I gotta make sure I get it, so I can put my racing on. And then this year with my, hey, last minute, I got some of my license, my EMT license, but questions like that, I hate a newcomer coming in and say, what is all this going on? So,
Just so you,
these
they
are
don't
on
all,
license, so I have
we're
to.
not all champions like that.
But I can
I
see, I
have
can.
no idea. I'm gonna
You don't
have to
know,
look
okay.
that up.
I'm an official, I'm a racer, I'm a coach, international racer, but I've gone through all of it, being this long, and then to have.
That's why you're a champion. Here.
Maybe. But to do that long, so you get these mature race directors and then say, well, now you have to jump through hoops like any other person, just like they did for coaching, same way. We went through weeks and weeks to become a coach and had to do all this paperwork. Now to take this test for your category C coach and make your way up.
Let's go back to that. So it's
I'm a
my.
champion. Take it back.
Did you take it?
Yeah.
Well, look, because there's race director certification where I'm not a champion. But if I click on the race director, I'm a champion.
Now you guys are used to this.
Yeah. We've also found out there's another one out there too. A gentleman that's joining us online there mentioned that he also has a championship race director license, and he's only promoted exactly one trip.
Huh.
So
Very,
that might be a bug in the system there.
It's really good you guys are off this. Must be.
very interesting. So back to the whole CEU issue for experienced race directors. Is there information that you would find out? How many of you guys, first show of hands, how many of you guys have put on races for more than 5 years? So, a little more than that. So for all you guys that have done races for more than 5 years, I just picked that random number, but is there any information that you think would be beneficial besides the new rules? I know that the rules update.
Well, I think the new voters should know where to get numbers, where to get pins, who you call for chief officials and stuff like that. Get, hey, if somebody doesn't show up, who you're supposed to call? Because people don't know to call JD now. They just know, hey, NEBRA says I didn't do this. Information, because when you sign up online, you go say cyclist says, have you done this? Doesn't tell you who. They said, we're going to give you an official. Okay, who's that official? If they're proactive, they get call you early. If not, you won't see it. But there's a whole checklist of things that resources like NEBRA has put up on their page. Hey, I need wheel support. Okay, here's a bunch of numbers for wheel support.
So the permit checklist would be a good thing for me to go to.
Yep, anything that's going to help a new voter out, the basics. Not how to sit in the selectman's office and explain to the town why you want to put a bike race on and stuff like that, which is more complicated. But the basic needs of a promoter, especially at grassroots races, will get on the 60-day kind of race. They need to know where to get this stuff. How long it's going to take to get numbers? If I can get numbers, and why am I paying $20 when I can pay only $11? What's the difference between the numbers?
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of information like that.
Yes.
To your question about what type of information do I think would be useful to me, one of the things that would be very useful is if I had an easy access to the database of the races that were being put on in the region, how much they cost, what the fields are they're offering, instead of paging through Bike Reg from race to race. If I could see that information of what's happening elsewhere in the region.
Don't you
For
get
the
that when
season.
you log into your page?
Well, I can find it when I log into USAC, and I look at all the information there, and I get the email from you folks, which is something in the local region.
But I mean, on your
What that
home
counts
page,
as.
it should pop up on your home page when you log in. It doesn't
Okay.
mind, it's a list of races.
Fine.
Yeah,
You asked a question, I gave you an answer.
yeah, there's a,
Okay, sorry.
yeah,
So, and the other thing I would tell you is to see how other race directors to see what other race directors use. I would love to have access to Michael's set of information that he uses to run his event. Not because, just to see what's he doing that I'm doing different. And I have on my serve to the world, I have a page that goes to all the volunteers, has all the information for the race, for the vehicle drivers. Every volunteer at my event can go online and get a printout of what it is they're doing for our race. And I was just bringing the number down for our road race, 74 people worked on race day. And so, it's a huge management job, but I'd love to see what other folks are doing.
So is that something that would work good in the kind of the community kind of, communication that you guys are talking about?
Absolutely, because I get this information too from going to different races and seeing what they're doing. But to see what they're doing in the front end, even though I'm pretty comfortable with what I do for my race, that'd be worthwhile to see what other folks do, and to see what the cross
Real
races.
quick, to jump on that is, now he knows all my secrets, he's gonna jump on my gate, take my gate away.
Well, I was gonna say something.
There's a lot of competition
No,
between
there's
you guys.
not. There's
As
not.
long as the schedule is.
In the People's Republic of Cyclocross, everything is, unicorns and rainbows. Because
Super awesome.
because of the normative structure that exists. If you're gonna put on a race, Alan has been the kind of person who oversees who's in what date, put a calendar together, people don't step on each other's dates. It's all very,
You talking cyclocross?
yeah,
You don't step on dates?
no. Not that I know of.
We're talking about cycling.
Which is the way
Yeah,
you're supposed
so
to.
you're talking locally, if someone
That's why we
says,
had to go to unsaid.
no, and locally, if I want to put on a race, it's, if I want to say I'm somebody that, doesn't know anybody, if I want to put on a cross race, I can go into USA Cycling, go and pull all my permit stuff in and everything, and then find out, oh, there's another race happening that day, right? And so what I think we've done, or Alan's done and JD have done a very good job of doing, is saying, here's the calendar, here's the slots, here's where you can go in. If there's not an open slot, we don't want too many races in one spot. Like this last Sunday, there were 6 mountain bike races around.
On Monday.
Yeah, Whiteface 100K, then there was Pinnacle, then there was the Narski, and then there was, what else? There were 2 others. Yeah, there were 2 others.
So there are 2 competing series, 100-miler, something in New Jersey.
113K. They advertised 100K, which I'm still angry about, because they didn't tell me about the last 6 months. Anyway.
That's what you raced it.
Yeah, but the point being, in cyclocross, we might have like Vermont and Rhode Island on the same day. So we kind of have how would you describe it? It's more of a gentlewoman's agreement. Don't make Alan mad, kind of thing where there is a structure to it. And I think it's important that NEBRA or something locally kind of serves as a management system for dealing with these potential conflicts. Because if we all try to cram a certain date, then we're all going to suffer from it.
Well,
isn't
then
that-
there won't be any incentive to share information.
Yeah,
Isn't that a function of an LA?
I think you should, absolutely.
It's
But if I go to USAC and fill out all my paperwork, where does it say on there, get in touch with your LA?
Huh.
There should be just be an entry before picking your date, check with your LA.
Exactly. There's
But see,
nowhere.
First
if
step, check.
If you're somebody that's not even associated with the LA, you don't even know about them.
Exactly.
But if you're going to USA Cycling to begin your permitting process, maybe the first thing is, the first step is check with your LA about your date before you move any further. Maybe I don't know what the first step is. It should be in there.
Unless it's changed, I know it has to be approved by JD.
It does have to
before
be
it
approved,
goes
but it goes
forward.
a fair way through the process before.
Right, but you can stop and call them up at that point and say, hey, your date is interfering.
So how does it end up to you?
And so I get an email when a new permit is started, and then I get a notification on my account when there is something that I need to approve. So this is good information for me, because this is something, I can be more proactive when I see that new permit started. I can go in and look at my calendar and be like, whoa, I just told this guy he can have a race on Aries, new race at
Fruitlands.
Fruitlands, yes, which I have done.
So what's the trigger that,
That's my fault.
What's the trigger that sends it to you? Just the location?
No, it's their taking out a permit.
But when they go on our website.
I know.
Yeah, when you do an online permit, when you complete it, the first step it takes, it goes to the whoever the admin is set up on USAC for.
For that state.
Yeah, right. So for the
Got it.
region, if it's by LA. So for the 6 New England states, anybody puts in a permit for an event that goes in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, goes to JD as the representative for New England bicycle racing.
So there's.
That's all back end. That's all back end. If I'm a race promoter, am I seeing that's happening, or is that just back end? It's going to you automatically? That's an important point.
It's coming to me automatically.
Yeah, but I don't see it once I hit send, right? It's happening, but as a user, I'm not seeing that happening. I'm not aware of
Says
that.
something like approval pending.
Right.
Which I don't know what
You don't know what
that
that means.
Right, so it should be a little bit more clear that
Exactly.
this is going to reach.
And feel free to contact whoever that is, you know, yeah, something like that.
And maybe the permit really shouldn't be processed, it has to be sort of pre-approved by.
Well, I mean, I relatively new race pro where I was first taught to fill out, you pick your date, which is a nightmare in and of itself. And I was doing that with like throw a dart at the board, who's having weather, that's a whole other subject. And it's like send it to Diane, now send it to JD. So the flyer goes to them before, I don't even touch USAC. So let's send them the flyer or Diane, and Diane will send it back, she'll look at it a day or two later and get back. Yeah, it's okay, well, no, maybe you need to change this. Then I could.
But you are one of the only promoters who's doing it that way, because the US.
Because I changed, I was told to do that.
Well, they changed it 2 years ago that we had to do it online. Cut your flyer online before, we used to send it to the LA.
Well, I was sending it to Diane and then JD, just like, here, take a look at it, and then I go to USAC, and then it would go back to them, but then they just push buttons, they've already.
Right.
So when you submit a permit, when you start a permit,
Yep.
do you get any sort of like a confirmation email back?
Like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that's where we can put this missing information and that confirmation, because if we have 3 programmers, guys, and when you guys talk about changing something in the computer system, it's much harder than you might think. But if there's already a confirmation email or something after you click send or something,
Yep.
then we could just add some language to that says, thank you for your permit, it's being sent to this guy, he's gonna approve it, and he'll contact you or something. You
That's
know?
like the first time in 4 or 5 years, I got an email this time for one of my races that said, oh, so-and-so's been assigned as your chief rep. First time I've ever done it. Because other than that, I never knew who was going to show up. No clue. And I go up to the website, I go to my event, who's my rep? Blank page.
I wonder what changed.
Well, I think what part of that is that a lot more people are using the post-event online post-event report to do instead of doing the paper chief rep report. In order to get the chief rep to do that, you have to assign the chief referee's license number you have to attach that to the USAC permit. So it's not the same thing, but there's a couple things working in here where once let's say if I'm assigned chief ref to a race, they put my license number in, and so I can access that post-event form. That same process might be kicking an email to the promoter saying that, I'm being assigned as your chief referee. It's 2 different processes there, but it's kind of working off of one thing.
Things that needs to be fixed is to ensure that at some point, when the chief rep is assigned, it actually, you can look to you as a promoter, you go to the USCC site, go to your event and see that that's who got assigned. Right now, I've checked 3 or 4 of my events.
Where should that be?
There's a link on the page that says who's the assigned officials, and you click.
Yeah, that might be. I mean, just an example, because I do a lot of work in New York also. In New York, the way they choose to work it is that they don't actually approve the permit until the chief referee is assigned and approved by the New York Association. So, not to say that they have to do the same thing here, but one thing that JD could do is that once he, before or maybe even after he approves the permit, if he hears from, if he knows who he's going to sign as chief referee, he can input it in there, in the actual permit itself, and then you get that activation.
Now, getting back to the end about flipping the races, when you have a race 18 years, and then UCI people, promoters that say, hey, we UCI are going to step on your race, and they do,
that killed a lot of local cross races. The UCI came with grass crits. So they were stepping on everybody. So what we ended up doing is fine. And that's what the USA segment, we started the small grassroots, keep it the fun. It's not the typical grass crit. We got some challenging roots to it. But it was still, we like to put races on it. But if you could go back where people aren't stepping on each other and say, hey, we're gonna take this date, and then 2 years later they're gone, which will become a sport, which it has. A lot of races, these promoters jump on for a seasoned promoter, and the promoters say, I'm not gonna put any more races on. You just cost me money. They're there for a year, maybe two, they're gone. Now there's an open calendar. Nobody wants to play. So we gotta protect, and that's why we should have these things. We used to have it. And we would, yeah, a lot of screaming and yelling, but it worked. Well, it's getting away from this is what kills us.
And with that is something that I definitely want to get back to, is having more regular promoters meetings, more regular contact. You know, speaking to the UCI, I think there's always going to be some events that have bigger scheduling priorities than tradition, and that is, you know, with UCI stuff, with NCC stuff, you've got to fit it into a larger calendar. So when we talk about the world calendar, regional calendar, national calendar, local calendar, the schedule at some level has to get filled down from the top, because there are considerations where you can't put on a UCI race the same day as a World Cup if you don't have a C1, or you are not supposed to have 2 UCI races in the same region. So as that grows nationally, and as we get a bigger scene in the Mid-Atlantic, we start losing some of those date opportunities for New England races. Specific to cross, I don't necessarily see there being a problem putting on a race the same weekend as a UCI race. People don't want to do it, but I think, especially in New England, cross has gotten big enough where when lots are selling out and Northampton's selling out, you know, if there's Paradise Cross up in northern Vermont on the same day, they're going to get people, and there's going to be people who just don't want to do that level of race. So
There's a lot of people who don't want to jump in.
Right.
Races, they want to just have a couple of hours of fun.
Right. So when the discussions we've had about differentiating our events and making the race calendar better, that is certainly, you know, a topic that we can address, you know, when we get to that, if we get to that tonight, or if you want to do it online. You know, if you want to put on a race, what kind of race do you want to put on? Do you want to put on a UCI race? Well, then you can't do it the same weekend as Gloucester. If you want to have a grassroots race, maybe that can work the same way. So that's where getting everybody in the same room or online to hammer out that schedule in more cooperative fashion is important. You've got to get back to that. You're absolutely right.
Are you looking over mountain bike now too?
I am not yet. It has been discussed. From a money standpoint, there's some issues with the way USA Cycling does their reimbursements and rebates for mountain bikes. So it would be nice if NEBRA got a little bit more cash. It would certainly be helpful. I would love to have a more unified presence at NEBRA managing more events in New England.
How do you guys coordinate mountain bike racing?
None.
See, that's the thing that I see.
Fantastic.
I come from Texas where we had NEBRA, and basically NEBRA was LA for mountain biking, and we would get together like this twice a year, and we do our fall calendar and our spring calendar, and talk about rules and all that kind of stuff. So basically it was in LA, and I just thought every state did that. And now I live in Colorado, and there's no way to find out where races are, because there's no coordination. Sorry.
We also, here in New England, we have a really robust alternate sanctioning body for mountain bike, EFTA, Eastern Fat Tire Association.
What is that?
Eastern Fat Tire Association. They put on half a dozen competitive races, a bunch of fun rides. It is an alternative sanctioning body. They provide insurance, they have their own series, their own rules. So when we were talking about the weekend that had 6 races, you had the Route 66 series, which is a USA Cycling sanctioned series, racing in central Massachusetts and in southern New Hampshire, an hour away, hour and a half away, less. you had the pinnacle of Chris's neighborhood, probably the best mountain bike race in New England, honestly, running against each other. And those, until this year, those two bodies have never really talked to each other, and have, for some promoters, actively tried to, work against each other. Marty at the Kennecott East has managed, I don't know how he did it, but managed to get them all together for Kennecott East. So if we start taking a more active role, he's a guy I would want to get involved in.
Or even if you just coordinate, because we've coordinated with TexRock, the LA for Texas, to the best of, there's racing every single weekend, and sometimes you're going to overlap.
Right.
But we tried.
And from my personal perspective, the FTA guys do their own thing, and they have their own scene, and it's great. I love their races. I want more people to race bikes. So if that means having an FTA race one weekend or on a Saturday and then a USAC on a Sunday, that works for me. Like that's, it may not fit the goals of the national organization, but for New England, we don't need to be killing each other anymore. Like
There's a race every weekend. It's a good thing, right?
Right. And for us, if we can have 2 or 3, if there's something going on in Maine and something going on in Connecticut, that's perfect. We have a relatively big region, so I would love to see options for people. And what I would want to avoid is when we have 3 races on a day, and then next weekend there's very little road racing. So.
And I think it's that way. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but the mountain scene, and it's totally separate, but is that way to me. And there were 2 this weekend. Then in July, I don't even know if there's much at all. It is really
right after the first week. There's
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Totally different topic, I guess.
There is.
It's not like there is one every weekend and then a couple some weekends. There'll be 2 the same weekend and then 3 weekends where there's nothing.
And that's all different race promoters. They're just not talking to each other.
Yeah.
And there are 2 bodies, so I mean that's tough.
And a tough example of that is that the last 2 years, we had a pro XCT race in Vermont, Catamount, and the pro turnout was respectable, but the amateur category, the turnout was so dismal. I mean, just 6 rider fields at a pro XCT race that's gone, and that had a lot to do with date conflicts. Because last year, I can't remember what it conflicted with, but and it just evaporated. So when we had a nice national level race at what I think is a solid venue, is gone and unlikely to be back. And it's almost entirely because of date conflict. Right?
And one of the big things that date conflicts and those challenges hurt us in is growing the sport in other areas of New England. Getting people up to Burlington is a challenge. I mean, you know this as much as anybody. How many years did you run UCI weekend there?
6 or 7.
Right. And it took a long time to get it up and running. But it's hard to convince people to go to those races. We're trying to get people. There's no reason all of New England should be at Sunapee.
Problem that happened now, I have to set my date in January. I had no clue that was going to be that day. And then I get people on Facebook saying, these promoters do whatever they want to do. I have no mechanism to find out who else was picking that date. I just got it in
So you guys haven't been meeting as a group for a while, right? This is the first meeting.
Yes.
So probably this is probably a really good thing for y'all.
Well, also too, I mean, I can personally vouch for the fact that the last couple seasons, I tried to get something together for cyclocross, and just no one wanted to hear about it. I mean, we got 5 responses, and 3 of them positive, and a couple maybes. And how many cross promoters do we have in New England? Like 40, 50. So and part of it is sort of technology. Is that if you have something online, I'll participate. So yes, we're streaming this today. This is a perfect example of this because there are some people that are watching this online as we speak. So,
And this is awesome.
yeah.
Russ, you have a question? Is it Russ?
Chris.
Russ is next.
2 things that, I'll speak to the participation thing. Our sport, putting an umbrella over all of the 2-wheel pedal thingy race, is evolving. And over the last, so our race, Sunapee, has been on that same date since 2002. It's the Saturday before Memorial Day weekend every year. 5 years ago, we had 625 races. 4 years ago, we had 423. I'm sorry, 6 years ago, we had 625. Then 423, then 324, then 380, then 292, and 270. So this race has been happening every year since 1974.
And what kind of race is this?
It's a road race. It goes around the lake. It's a 23-mile course. It does 1, 2, or 3 laps depending on the category. It's unlikely it's going to happen next year.
So what do you
That
attribute
kill is
that?
that weekend next year.
I don't know.
May
That-
23rd.
Yeah.
May 1st. Let's see where they move it to next year.
But it doesn't matter.
That's what I heard.
So
So
this
what do you attribute
decline
that to?
over the last 5, 6 years has not been, other races have come and gone. This year, we had a number of events that same weekend. There was an event that always happens in New Hampshire called Crank the Kang. It goes up the Kangamangas Highway. It had 250 participants. Maybe 30 of those are actual bike racers. There was a mountain bike race the next day. If you talk to the folks who have come to our race in the past that weren't there this year, the biggest population that I know of were folks who were doing the mountain bike race the next day. And that's part of the road cycling base that has shifted from being interested in coming to something.
So you think it's just a change in interest?
I think it's a change in interest, and I think that I think that a handful of years ago, or maybe longer, get the timeline right with what has happened with cyclocross. What I saw as somebody who's been a road cyclist predominantly is that folks were becoming interested in riding in the fall, and it was a partner of road cycling in the sense of what folks participate in. But that's changed. There are a lot of elite cyclists on the road who aren't doing any road racing anymore
What are they
because
doing?
they're training for the cyclocross season. And I'm not complaining about that, but our clientele has evolved.
Just at the point, my race is a Wednesday night. Last year I had over 400.
And it's a second cost race.
Second class race.
So do you think the fact that, although years around the race sounds doable, but one of the things about cyclocross that I've noticed is, I mean, it's still spectator friendly.
Family
And
friendly.
it's fun. And there's beer drinking and it's a big party and I think it's an experience.
It's safe, relatively speaking. You can crash. Odds are you're not going to go away too damaged. If you get dropped from a group, you can still race, right? It's very family friendly. You can see you go around multiple times with family. It usually takes place at schools or parks, which are also family friendly. The time is finite. How long is it going to take? 40 minutes, right? I'll be home by this time. So there's a lot of those elements which are more conducive for people as they age up and have families. Whereas I don't know what the data would say, but if you're road racing, you have a lot of time and you don't have a family, maybe it's, that kind of race is more conducive. Whereas as people get older, the equipment's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
You can ride it a lot longer. It makes less of a difference in many ways, at least perceived to make less of a difference. So for all those reasons, cyclocross, at least to me, would make sense of why it's growing so much.
Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I want to say on Chris's race, I raced it every year. I raced it the first time I was 14, which was a while ago, But I think it's, it's the epitome of a good, clean New England road race. Everybody goes to something you know is going to happen. There's no disasters. It's not spectacular, but it's a good, solid road race. You're not doing anything wrong. And I think there could be more evidence that there's a change in taste and participation. It's not that you guys are doing anything wrong. You do the same thing every year and you do it well. You do it spectacularly, but it's a good, solid, predictable road race, and there's no gripes. And I think there could be no better evidence in my mind that it's just showing how rider taste is changing, whether it's towards cross or dirt road races or whatever.
Oh, yeah, gravel grinders, that's the other one.
Yeah.
There's way more choice out there now than there ever has been in the past. I coach, and there were 10 events this weekend that I had clients doing. I mean, Grand Fondos, those weren't happening even 5 years ago. The gravel races, people want this epic thing. And I think road racing, unfortunately, is a little bit stale. It's been there forever. And there are all these new things. And I don't know what the answer is, but, I feel for you. I mean, it stinks, I don't know.
So are we as a business, I hate to use that word, but are we recruiting young kids and bringing them in? Because I don't know about you, but all the races I go to, the biggest categories are the men 40 plus and 50 plus. I mean, the people that have been racing all these years are getting up there. And are we, I don't know about you, but in my mountain bike races, we had to combine like the lower 20 years of women because there was like 3. So are we doing those things at the local level and at the national level?
Dawn wants to speak so badly about this.
We had the Launch Joe Classic. This year, we're really emphasizing kids races, starting at 3 years old and up. Different categories, they all get medals. We just sent 14,000 flyers to all the students in Fitchburg, all the students in Leominster, all the students in Worcester, to have, for them to bring this flyer home in their backpack, give it to their parents, so they can go on the launchjoe.com website and register their kids. And it's all about bringing them up in the industry. It's all about health. It's all about, cycling and all that stuff. So and fun. And the mayors are going to be handing out the medals, and they're going to be leading the kids' races on their bikes and stuff like that. So yes, to answer that question, we're really trying to incorporate kids more and more, which brings, just by nature, more community.
Right.
Because it's, I mentioned it a couple of meetings earlier today, it's the old McDonald's methodology of marketing. You serve a Happy Meal, or you have a little kids race, the parents are coming, the grandparents are coming. So now that brings more spectators, which makes more eyes on the brand, which brings more sponsors, and then it kind of snowballs over the years. So to answer that question, our emphasis this year is absolutely kids.
But is everybody doing that?
So I put on a cross race. We let the Cub Juniors race for free. We give them all a prize, frisbees, T-shirts, or something. And I paid $3 a piece to USA Cycling for insurance for them. And you hit them up for a $15 one-day license. How come a kid?
That wasn't me.
That's what your shirt says.
I mean, they're out there for 20 minutes going around the course.
So,
Don't
you
understand
see
why
where this
they're
goes
all
a lot.
the same.
So this is nicely,
She's got to go on this.
segue into our sort of next discussion topic, which is the LA working group and the things that NEBRA and other local associations are working with USA Cycling on, and identifying what are the biggest issues we have in our region. What's, the, Chris said that here, but, when I said my thing, I said it was, we're losing events and we're losing members. How do we get them back? We have costs that are going up. We're paying more for permits every year, and it's driving promoters out who don't want to pay for race clean and a bigger permit fee and all this other stuff. And insurance goes up. It is, you paid $3 per last year. You're paying $3.60 this year.
Yeah.
So, right. And so all of this stuff adds up, and it's putting more and more pressure on. So we're hoping, speaking from the NEBRA perspective, that there's some good change coming from USA Cycling. The LA working groups are trying to work out what the association, where the LA fits in between USA Cycling and the promoters. Are we that hub? Do we have you guys send information to me and then on to somebody else, or we'll just get out of the way and let everybody talk to each other? Does that stuff, those forms that you want, those timelines, does that happen on the user sites? Does that happen on USA Cycling? So that's part of the conversation we're having. So I want to have.
But wait, before she starts talking, I just want to say thank you. I don't feel like I've gotten all the information that I want to get from you. I hope that you guys all know how to contact me, and I hope that you will. I'm very interested. I really want to make the race director program a good program. I want to make it valuable. And I can only do that if you guys tell me what is valuable. And I don't feel like we've had enough time to talk about that tonight. I realize my time is up, but I just want to say thank you, and please contact me if you have any ideas.
Just cards.
I do.
Can you just a 5-minute break?
Yeah, that's.
Cards are a good thing.
Yeah.
Cards are a good
Oh,
thing.
scratch here.
Yeah, I'll even share. Sharing is caring.
I realize that
So moving it out, Jason wants to.
And you gave the staff the last episode.
Yeah, so here's since bike ride started in 2002, we've been on bike ride. And so this is our profile from 2002. We had 500 racers all the way up from maybe February until 2009. It spiked at 625. Since then,
You know what happened here?
the new supply, you look at this, and this year 2002, actually, it had because there were 3 inches of snow. That year. And it was terrible. We had to cancel the race at the venue.
All of the show.
And everybody came, you know, and folks came back. But this was really a surprise. This was shocking.
What I'm trying to do is realize that.
For us, you know, for us, a good size race, that's the athletes they have field. This year, that's a great size. And, so I don't know what causes, what that result.
You had the June date.
No, the June date was this 380. And we had about 1 year during this trend when the amount of over the top about yeah, we were on the calendar and then they said, oh, you're gonna make $10,000 Spartan Chrysler. Yeah, and so that came in that 1 year, and that was
So have you done it?
Saturday.
It is a classic grass.
Well, that's
event.
it.
We've been on bike rides since bike rides started. It's always that same
But it's working.
It's turned over.
Just
A number of promoters. And, you know, my philosophy is instead of going out and getting large sponsors, bike races want to control the support. And we're able to sponsor that model. So we have to change that model, or we have to do something. That's what I think we're gonna end up doing, is we're gonna do something different. And we won't stop hosting an event. I've got some ideas.
That's Ellen.
Stage race, that involves a time trial on pretty much a closed course. It involves a bunch of public road, and then you do a nice circuit on there. On there, they already have a race up there. So they're they already have.
And eventually, what we'll do is
Play
we'll.
series breaks, spring.
Oh, and you have to.
Maybe going in that direction. But I don't race. Like 12,000 before, like 12,074 people.
In my phone, it's just gave me the venue.
I think you guys, I can't prove this, you know, I gave you special privilege that, you were kind of late on coming out when the race was. I remember looking at January, the bike race, and I think there's more and more riders are flying out their races.
And I said.
They're still registered, but I think they're scheduled. No, you know, when you're here, it strikes me, it seems like they're 30 years. Yet you're showing the typical cost.
A little bit of that.
Just the schedule. The schedule.
So we're gonna keep on going here. the tail end of that last discussion, we started getting into sort of like the more bigger picture questions of like, how do we fix what's going on? What do we do for promoters to add value to your events? What can USA Cycling do for us? What can NEBRA do for you guys? How do we grow women's racing? Like, how do we get more women promoters? How do we get more women, to do? How do we get more of you guys to do the prize winning for men and women? All those things. So the local associations are working with USA Cycling in small groups in order to build a big group and help hammer out the relationship NEBRA has with USA Cycling, how that works financially, logistically, etc. What USA Cycling can do to help improve events, give more value to the riders, like for insurance, for the permits, for all these things like that. There's got to be a reason to sanction the USA Cycling. There's got to be a reason to have the USA Cycling license as a racer. What's that going to be? So Stephanie's going to talk to you a little bit about that process.
So I am brand new to the company. I've been with USAC for 2 months, and Cindy is also brand new too. So I think we have a really big advantage on us being a completely clean slate. We have no past baggage. We'll come and take your concerns very seriously. And so what I do at USAC is I oversee our regional managers, and I think maybe you guys all know Stuart Lamb. Have you guys worked with him before?
Never heard of him.
Okay, so that's a problem, and we're actually really trying to push them all out to go out to your events and really see things like on the actual ground and be more in touch with the race directors and riders and the local association.
Stuart will be here in July. He's coming up for the Boston Revolution mountain bike race, and I'm trying to get him to come out to either Hilltowns or Yarmouth or do some sort of a meetup when he gets out here. So that is, I don't know if we'll actually do an actual meeting like this, because I don't want to make you guys travel every single month, but he is come here and meet people, our way to get into these.
So as I came on board, I'm starting to see this disconnect between you guys and Stuart is your guy that you should go to for any meeting. So what I've been tasked with is trying to better the relationship between the LA and USA Cycling. And how we're doing that is we're having a smaller group, we call a smaller group and then a larger group. And just so you guys get an idea of how we split that up is just because everyone wanted to be a part of this smaller group, and we thought the best way to do it was to have one representative from each local association. We split them up into 6 different groups, and it's based by region just because we feel like you all experience the same problems depending on where you're located. And we try to mix it up between a larger LA and a smaller LA. So this is completely brand new. A huge change era right now, and we're really ramping up. And this is the first month we're actually doing this. And it's a way for us to get more in touch with all of you. And you guys will get in touch through JD. And then he, in turn, will bring all of your concerns to the smaller working group. So smaller working groups meet together, and then they sort of get a consensus of how they want to move forward. And then we have what we call a larger group call, and that's where we compare all of the LA's wants and needs, see what the majority is, and then move on from there in terms of changing how USAC has been in the past, whether it's licenses, our rules, the LA agreement. And so the first agenda we gave were, how do you define growing cycling? How do we define the relationship between the local association and USAC? What are the 3 major problems in your region? What tools and services do you guys need in order to be successful? And so we've started these conversations, and we're actually all going to come and meet next week and compare notes to see what action items we can put in place and how we can move forward. So I actually really want this more of a conversation to get all of your feedback on. Maybe we can start with those points tonight, or I don't know.
So to let you guys know where NEBRA is in this conversation, we've had one phone call with Stewart. Our local association small group is NEBRA, New York Bicycle Racing Association, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania. I might be forgetting some Ohio.
Look at the sheet.
I have to look, but those are in our first phone call. Those are sort of the major people we were talking about. The very first thing that we, in our call last week, started working on is we need to know how the relationship works with USA Cycling. We need to know, where do we stand? Are we business partners? Is NEBRA a subordinate body to that? Like, how does that work? Do we just implement the things that come down from Colorado? So that has always been an issue. We never really know how much funding we're going to get. So I'm sure all of you guys know, like, this is my first year as a full-time employee at NEBRA. What we get from USA Cycling does not cover my salary. We got to figure out how that's going to get funded. We would like to get more money from USA Cycling, but the money we get from USA Cycling goes towards grants, goes towards costs. And so we're going to create programs for you guys. What do you want to see? How are we going to spend that money? And how do we get more money from USA Cycling to do that? The other thing is we need to know what our relationship is with USA Cycling in terms of, are they going to be supportive of us? Are they going to be hands-off, like they have been for the last few years? Is there going to be competition? We have a really hard time here in New England with the online registration service and with her being tied to that because we have such a strong relationship history with bikers. So when new things come out, we get really scared. We're like, oh, they just want more money. It's like, like that's we're paying $3 a trip, then we're paying $15 for a one day, and we're not seeing any value. Where does that value come from?
Yeah, just on that point, JD, just look at USA Cycling's webpage and their vision statement. The vision of USA Cycling is to make the United States of America the most successful country in the world for competitive cycling. I personally don't care about that. I'm more interested in what JD said about growing people's interest in cycling as a recreational fun activity.
And that was weird too. And my group has actually been tasked with, because we really do care about the growth of the sport, the grassroots level of it, and we're trying to figure out ways on how to bring on more non-competitive events and see what you guys need in order to recruit riders.
So I guess one of my questions is, are our goals aligned in a fundamental way, right?
Right, and that's one of our.
And maybe they're not. Maybe this is USA Cycling's goal. Maybe it's a very good goal, but if our goal is something else, maybe that speaks to one kind of relationship, and maybe not. Not saying that's a bad goal. Maybe not another kind of relationship.
To be honest, I would like, because that was written a long time ago, and I would sort of, especially in the direction where we want to go now, because there's a lot of change going on, and proof is me and her being hired, and
then actually coming out.
And yeah, so we're really trying to make an effort, because when it first came on, it was, USAC sucks, USAC, it just imposes all their rules on us, there's no.
People still say that.
A lot of people still say that. So this is a way of us trying to get your feedback and really implement it.
But I think there's one thing that is, yes, we definitely support grassroots and bringing people into the sport, but I mean, our enabling legislation, if you will, is as an NGP, our job is to create a method for people to get to international racing and Olympics. That's, we're mandated to do that. But I think it all goes together because we do identification and we do development of riders, and that comes from the grassroots. It's all one stream.
And I think we share the same goal. Look at the national, the world championship team in cyclocross. It's New England primarily, right? So obviously we share the same goal because we develop riders through our junior ranks.
Right.
But I guess it's how we identify ourselves in terms of our primary mission. We aren't saying we need to have a junior race so we get to have a next world champion. We say we want juniors to race because we want juniors to race, and if they become the next world champion, that's fantastic. If they don't, we still want juniors to race. So I guess just feedback, right? Going back and looking at the vision of it, when that's what the vision says, and then when people look at that and say, well, this is what USA cycling is now, it's changed, might be changing, that's great. It might be something really to take a hard look at, like in Colorado Springs, and say, if this is what they're saying, is it aligning with what the sentiment is out there? Or if we need to focus more on this international element as the representative body, maybe then we have to have the local ones. We need to enable, facilitate the local organizations to let them do the development at the grassroots level and not put things in their way that might interfere.
So that big question is like, if USAC is going to do the world team development camps, all that stuff, that I think we all agree needs to happen and is a really important part of the racing journey. We need things like NRC crits and UCI cross races and national championships and world championships. But we also need that grassroots level and that intermediate level. And so who administers that? Who funds that? Who organizes that? Does that come from USA Cycling? Does it come from the LAs? And if the LAs do that, what are the resources that are made available to us? And what can that relationship, how does that relationship work cooperatively instead of competitively? Or maybe not competitively, but without consideration for rewards. So when there are systems being put in place that only UCI cyclocross series in the country, cycling also cyclocross series, but all things like, wait, so you guys are competing for publicity and press and all this stuff for our series. And we stepped up and built this great thing. That is a
I understand. I don't understand.
So the Verge series is the UCI cyclocross series based only one in the country.
That's here.
That's here. USA Cycling promotes the Pro CX series, which has a prize list. It has a point schedule aside from UCI points, and it also rewards C1 events at triple the points of a C2, all of which is announced after UCI inscriptions go in. So we set up, in a year when New England's going to have the only series in the country. 2 months after all the paperwork goes in, oh hey, there's this new series, and oh, there's $40,000, and oh yeah, we're going to award triple points to that race that's on the other side of the country instead of the UCI race series here. So
they're not for the two things.
It's taking people from the race that
it
we
takes
established.
it takes people from our events.
So it's not coordinated? It's not,
No.
I just assumed that it's like nationals.
Yeah,
No.
no, it is, and I know and love Mike, and he will give you a very different story of this than I have, but he's not going to tell you that it competes with us, but when there's a USA Cycling press release on Valley News every single week about Pro CX standings, and there's no article about the New England series, that hurts us. And we're like, wait, you guys are friends or allies?
We can get that. I sort of want to talk to you here because I'm a huge note taker.
No, that's.
But and that's another thing we're trying to do. We're trying to also help with market. So I mean, it had to be discussed with WICA, but like, I don't see why we can't send out communication.
So and so far it's gotten much better this year. but there's more.
But that's still
internal
different
politics.
issue. You're talking about the conflict. There's
But
a
that,
conflict.
that conflict and the appearance that USA Cycling is not taking into consideration the needs of the regions or the concerns of the LA. Like we have a big sponsor in Bike Ridge. They've been the keystone of the community since 2002. You know, so and we all use them and we support them. They run events themselves. They sponsor teams. They have Evan runs the Bike Ridge team. He's a Cat 2. Ross is a former pro. You know, so they're part of our community, and they're running a business. And USA Cycling sort of jumps in not as a supplemental registration system, but as a head-to-head competitor. So it's not like
Yeah, the reason for that is we want to make the registration process easier, or the event management process easier for the race directors, and we've actually gotten a lot of great feedback from race directors saying, you know, it flows well, and I like that you have an online waiver that we can sign, you can paper for the day. So it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't to compete with Bike Ridge, but it was more just to give another option to the race directors in terms of ease of management.
I'm gonna argue that because I'm sorry, but you told me as a race director that if I use your registration, you'll give me a price break on the insurance. But how is that fair? Because now you're in direct competition with another reg company, and if I use them, I can't get a rebate. But if I use you, then I can get a rebate.
Well,
Did you use them? And real quick, did you use them? USA Cycling?
No.
You're lucky. Because people I've talked to that do use them, don't get money. They're waiting for money. And as
I don't mean to.
a racer,
but this is all good.
No. so money back. Like Bike Ridge, make sure 3 weeks out you get a check, 2 weeks out you get a check, 2 days before the competition you get a check, because we're running on a shoestring budget anyway, you need the money.
Yeah,
We
people
understand
with
that.
their hands out, want to check, and you don't have your money.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are some flaws to that, but the biggest thing was, we put it right up there in front of all the promoters, new promoters that don't know anything, where Bike Ridge has been taken care of and been working years and years developing it, and then still going to work with Bike Ridge. Hey, how can we help you to help everybody else in the country? He said, no, I'm just gonna drop them.
So would you say majority of you guys would prefer not? Obviously, you're huge at Bike Ridge.
On New England, I think
We
it's about
don't
100%.
use, how many,
I don't
events
think
in New
it's-
England use the USA?
Yeah,
I don't think there's
No.
a single event I can think of that uses USA Cycling.
I want to know where the cross races this weekend go on Bike Ridge.
It's basically the default calendar.
Yeah,
You want to look
it's
at
the
where,
calendar, it's the
where do you look for races? You don't look on the USAC site and never look for races. You look at the Bike Ridge site and it shows you, oh, here are the races within 200 miles.
I
That's
just,
about
if
marketing.
I'm on a shoestring budget and you can offer me a rebate because you're USA Cycling and you're offering a competing service, but you're also a national governing board, it's a big conflict of interest.
So let me ask you, can I ask a question differently about this issue? I think I know what you're saying, but I want to say it anyway. I mean, there are many different registration systems out there, and in fact, the reason, because I talked about this with Micah, and the reason that it even came up in our organization is because one of the organizations that either we were using or people were using, they had this old waiver, and so there got to be these discussions about lawsuits and the outdated waiver and stuff. And so that's how it kind of got going. But since there are a number, and I'm from Texas, and Texas is a bike ridge state too, so let me say that. But the way I see it, there are numerous options. There are numerous companies that do online registration. Why shouldn't we have?
It's a conflict, because you're also distributing licenses and you have the ability to say, we'll give you a rebate back if you use our service.
Well,
Whereas,
yeah, and to be honest, there are some things that may change in the future, and some things that may not. But one of the feedback we got from race directors is, well, what do you need from us? And they're like, well, we need money. And they're like, okay, so a way we can sort of supplement that is if you use a registration system, then we can give you a portion.
So why not?
So that's why it was our way of trying to put money back into the district.
Then why offer the rebate, but also increase insurance costs?
Well, insurance costs,
Couldn't you offer rebate to the insurance
well,
costs?
that's why we're here. The insurance is a whole different story. That is with our company, and to be honest, we don't keep any portion of that. That goes straight to just liability and all of that.
You know, I really don't want to go down that.
I would be very careful, maybe, as a new hire, my personal recommendation would be.
I mean, exactly.
We've done a very intense discussion about
I will go on record as saying, I don't think that is true.
So let me revert back.
Delete that, Ellen, delete that.
So, okay, yeah. I'll take that back.
If I could just make a quick comment here.
Go ahead.
So I'm Ross Krause with Bike Reg and
Uh-huh.
Evan Hoff with Bike Reg. And I swear we didn't come here to argue this point. I'll start it with that. It's because, you know, we're connected to the community here. We want to know what's happening. It's like JD pulled this together. to get
And the
everyone here.
responsibility
So
to contribute directly to our organization. They
That's-
help fund us in our goal of industry bikers.
that's my biggest issue in general, and I know that seems to be a theme with how people have felt about ecosystem, is that we should all be partners. You know, we're part of the industry. We're not trying to be a governing body, and I don't think a governing body should be trying to be a business either. So I do think there are some things, and specifically with the registration, and we've had discussions with people at ecosystem before. I'm hoping that me communicating this to you, get out to some of the new folks there, including yourselves, and maybe actually make a difference, where we can have a conversation about working together, rather than feeling pushed out as a company that's dumped. Shouldn't use the word dumped. Willingly put a lot of energy and a lot of money into supporting the sport and supporting racers and growing the sport here. There's been a number of unfair practices, I would say, as far as the access that USSN has to membership data and services they claim that only they can provide, such as the online waiver. So, same thing as I think is just another choice to provide a registration service is one thing, and that would make it all fair. But to offer that and say there's things exclusive to using that service that others can't provide is completely unfair.
So what would,
We'll just go on record as saying that.
what would working together look like for you? What do you think would be fair?
I think actually I have a lot of ideas, so I'd love to talk about this in more detail beyond this, but I'll say that a model similar to what USA Triathlon has, where their national governing body, they're willing to work with a number of different vendors, whether it be online registration or otherwise, to allow access to their data as long as they approve your system, so other people can run online registration. So a race director can choose to use the vendor they want, you know, online registration being one of them, and still have access to the same level of tools, such as the online waiver, selling insurance and membership, things of that nature. So to hold that exclusive within the governing body and to be going against people that have been supporting the sport just seems odd to me.
But you have access to the database, right? It seems like really the issue is the waiver.
That is the biggest issue. Yeah.
And the rebate.
And
And the rebate.
And yeah, leveraging things that benefit promoters to further a business. And I guess the question in my mind that comes up is, you know, you're giving a rebate off the online registration fee, but you know, so that's basically coming from the rider, and you're giving some of that money back to.
But really, it's an unfairness that you feel. If you feel like it's unfair, that we have an unfair.
It gives you an advantage that only you can have as a governing body. Like, bikers can't have that same advantage because they're not the governing body.
I understand.
So I do all that work setting up my online permit with USA Cycling. Why don't you send them bike rates the data so that I don't have to do it again when I go set up my online registration?
Well, I thought that, in fact, I asked, Micah told me that other registration companies have access to our database.
But not the permit.
Yeah, I think the only.
Oh, the permit.
Some membership information as far as licensed riders, but
Yes.
not to the same extent.
Okay.
Yeah, you asked the question, why should, let's say, cycling be involved in this? And it goes to the point I was making. We can be involved in it, but it's gonna work at cross purposes of our purposes, which is developing the grassroots community. Because we're dependent on organizations, companies like Bike Reg, to support what it is we're trying to do. And so that's why I said, what's the mission of USA Cycling versus missions of the local associations. Our mission is to grow what's happening here locally. We need bike organizations like Bike Rage. If USA Cycling's mission is to support international competition at the highest level, you're going to have a registration system that you're going to manage in particular kinds of ways to get that revenue. And then USA Cycling can't come and say, we're here to help grassroots cycling, because what you have just done has directly contravened that mission.
And it feels very unfair.
Well, it feels hypocritical. I mean, I've been fair. Yeah, it's hypocritical saying, you know, we're USA Cycling, we're here to help. Here we go. Because what we need are these local groups like Bike Rage. And when USA Cycling takes steps that can directly harm those kinds of groups, either intentionally or unintentionally, the net result is we get hurt by the mission we have, which is the develop local cycling, even though USA Cycling's mission might be further in the process. That's why I asked that original question. Do we have alignment with our particular missions? In words, it might seem yes, but in action, sometimes it indicates it not necessarily.
So we understand that the governing body needs to be profitable. It needs to create money, and it needs to support this program. But we have this weird thing where it's like, you guys are also running a business on the side that seems like a business and not like furthering sport cycling. So it just,
My biggest question is the insurance, because of all this stuff that's going on. Why did USA Cycling want to monopolize a bunch of stuff at the high level instead of pushing up? Why do you guys want that responsibility when it can be done a lot cheaper than what you guys are offering? Because biking is not the only sport in town. All these other sports have insurance, and I know where they get all their insurance because you have so many people on this that work for the insurance companies know all this stuff. So our attitude is, if USA Cycling needs to make money, fine, just come out and tell us this is how we have to make money. But don't do it on things that we know. If you want to help the promoters, that's why I had 2 races. I had a US SAC because I always wanted to make sure our club stayed official. Now we don't have to. I have big races on the outside, which have better insurance. Better meaning I've looked side by side, so as everybody else, and we have health insurance for everybody also, which is on top of that, and it works cheaper. And then to go and say, no, this is the only way you can get it, this is the only thing that's better. It's like, no, there's tons of insurance out there.
Are you willing to share that insurance care with?
I have. I put it up, the insurance policies, and I can use the company. Because it's the same company that gives it for soccer, rugby, and all these other places.
the question is why won't USA Cycling give the insurance information? They won't share a policy.
Well, the main thing is because it's an insurance policy for the whole company, it's not just for the event, and so we can't share that information because it encompasses all of the use
If it encompasses that big thing, why does USA Cycling want to get into the broking business of insurance? Because you become a broker at that point. You're no longer, hey, we're helping people out, and here's the insurance you can go get. You become the broker. USA Cycling is the broker of insurance. It's no longer, hey, we're just helping people out.
So what exactly would you like us?
If it more goes to you and say, hey, we have comparable insurance, if it meets or exceeds your expectation of insurance for the event, that's going to protect everybody, why not use it?
So almost similar to the registration, right? Present us with a suite of options. You have your event, you want to do registration, here's all these companies that you can use. You need insurance, here's all these companies you can use. When everything is controlled and siloed, it just seems shaky. And
Focus on being the governing body.
But the
Focus,
insurance
that's the
and
number
the
one
permit
thing, be the
thing,
governing body.
so
I understand the connection between the insurance and the permit. But I also I've heard a couple of words that I think probably describe the general perception. You said monopoly, you said earlier about being I forgot your exact words, but about being a broker of services instead of taking over everything. And you talked about unfairness, and I think that probably describes just sort of the overall sense.
that's the dispute.
Yeah. And we could argue about the insurance, that's so complex. But, I think it's probably more bigger than that. It seems like there's a whole lot of things that just add up.
But the small staff that USA Cycling does have, very small, when you come out to the real business world, and we have people doing multi-billion-dollar insurance, and they know the insurance so much better, how do you go against those people and look right at them and say, oh no, our insurance is better? I guarantee you, the people that's on our staff, Mass Mutual and Liberty, all these other insurance companies that do billions and billions of dollars, telling us, oh, this is better than what they have. You can't be up here saying, we have this, it's the only thing in town, you need it. And when we go across, because when I left USA Cycling, I was scared. I'm gonna get sued, so I had my first accident, and went through the insurance, everything went fine. But I paid $50, got taken care of. Now, USA Cycling, 5,000, and then you have to pay 70, they only pay 70%, blah, blah. It's like, wait, why get to 25,000, you gotta pay 12,000 to get to 25,000? That doesn't make sense, especially if you have road rash, get in, right, get broken collarbone. It might cost maybe $5,000 or $6,000 by the time you get then hospital bills, which our insurance covers. So that's why when I say USA Cycling is the governing body, if you want to make money, fine. We'll find other ways to make money for you guys. We can do other things to do that. But don't go to all these promoters that are trying to just make it on a shoestring budget and say, hey, you got to pay down $3,000 for a small event, that's fine. 700 riders, that's almost $3,000 I got to pay when I pay the same coverage insurance plus medical for $700. Like, wow, that's night and day. So.
I don't know anything about insurance personally, but when I went to the meeting in 2013, the race director meeting, and maybe this is true, again, I have no idea. There was a definite scare tactic that if you don't use USA Cycling insurance, you won't be covered as a promoter properly. Like these other insurance companies really don't know how to do it correctly because they don't know cycling that well. And again, I can't speak for that. Maybe that's true. But I left, that meeting in 2013 thinking, man, I better use my insurance because if I don't, someone's going to sue me or I might not have the insurance right. And it's definitely, a that we really need to use for insurance. I can't personally, I haven't seen the policy, but I also, I'm not an insurance expert.
There's a big transparency issue where, we hear the same, this is the words that you spoke, I've heard Todd say them 100 times. And we've talked to so many people, and there's so many other sanctioning bodies. Just like, if that's the case, you guys are getting ripped off. Like there's something wrong, and it sets a tone that makes everybody really uneasy. So,
and it seems to me like I'm interested in the transparency issue because it seems like if you knew, if you had full knowledge of the insurance policy, then either you would say, yeah, what Todd said is true, or no, what Todd said is not true.
Right.
And right now, you don't really know.
Right. And so there's got to be some sort of solution, whether that's severing the parts of the insurance coverage that we're not supposed to see or that are tied to people's compensation or whatever is going on that isn't for public eyes. And the bike racing part of it, you gotta know, because it affects our events, it affects the way we run our events. I know Pennsylvania really wants to do something with their motor insurance. We use a lot of motor officials here. We would love to work with them and figure out how we get a motor insured for an entire year instead of just a day. Like those are the options that if we could go to the marketplace, we could get. But because we can't go to the marketplace, we can't get them. So not to go back to bike rage, but if I want to do day of registration with an iPad, the market that support that. So I should be able to choose that thing from the marketplace. In New England, our race promoters have a huge array of things that they can choose from the marketplace that help make their races better. And NEBRA doesn't necessarily do any of that. We don't have, there's no NEBRA finish line. There's no NEBRA fencing or truss. We're an administrative organization. There's private services. I run one, Alan runs one. There's a couple others who do finish line cameras. There's people who do fencing. I mean, Mike started this down this road 15 years ago getting motor marshals and EMTs. We now have a medical service that's been working bike races for 15 years, at least. And he's got a crew of EMTs, and he interfaces with your local fire department or ambulance service, and he does radios and all this stuff. But if you don't want to pay that fee, you want to have that attached to your race, you don't have to do it. So it's almost a la carte. Yeah.
So
However shiny you want to make your race, you can do that. And so there's some transparency there. And we don't get that with things like you have to use this insurance, you have to use this.
So if you were to tell us, so you would prefer a 1 year auto insurance instead of having to do it per event?
I think we would like to be able to explore options, certainly to make motors more affordable.
What you say, second what you do is come up and say, this is what you need as a minimum insurance coverage. Just like in my local town, they say, I want a $3 million policy, I need to have this, this, and this.
For like an a la carte.
So, I'm gonna say, secondly, to print a bike race, you have to show us your policy that's going to cover this. If you can do that, you might be able to get your insurance, say, we'll go with you because you're cheaper. Or, hey, I can go down the street and get the same thing, or I want to go better insurance and pay less.
And so set a minimum standard and then let people to choose more or additional or different coverage if they can. We have some promoters who are saying, hey, I'm looking at the policy and that's not enough. Like, I have a house in Boston and my house and my cars, add up to the single instant coverage. Like the policy numbers, I don't think have changed in a few years. And all of a sudden it's like, we start talking about $1 million coverage or $2 million. It's like, that's not a lot of money. Maybe I should be able to go out to the market and get more coverage. Should I get a $5 million policy or a $10 million policy if I'm doing a road race where everybody has a $10,000 bike? I want some more insurance. Or if I'm doing a grass grid, maybe I just want the bare minimum.
And obviously, neither of us are insurance experts, but did you say that you're saying to me you have choices? Who said that?
With the insurance, I'm actually not sure. I was thinking, if I said that I missed their registration and their license sales and stuff for other services.
But that's what you're saying, Monica. That's what you guys are saying, that it seems to you that we could just say you need, when you work with the county or the city, when you're having a part of the race, and they say, all right, we'll give you a permit to have a race on property, but you have to have insurance, that's all it's correct.
Yeah.
We can take that back and ask if that's something, is this something y'all would?
So like a tiered insurance.
But just like, so we said,
Just set a limit of minimum insurance, just like any other body will.
Like our insurance, the state says you gotta have $250,000 liability.
Right, exactly.
You gotta have this, that, and that, and then you go all state, you go State Farm.
I don't know
What the numbers are.
I don't know if it's possible because we're issuing a permit, but it's something we can take back and ask.
Because like the insurance you have now, as a racer, you're insured through your license. If I'm running a USAC race, you didn't do your license this year. You jump into my race because my race is going 60-something miles down the road. 5 miles in, you jump in my race. You crash, you burn. You're gonna sue me because, hey, you jumped in the race, you're gonna sue me. USAC has no coverage for that guy because he has no insurance. My race, you get plane insurance. Here, go pay $250 deductible, go get taken care of. That's the difference. And that's the difference where now I can sleep at night because if so-and-so goes down
rides around my park, hits a tent, and crashes and burns, it's like, I'm taking care of it. USAC doesn't, because their policy doesn't cover vendors or other things that are on the property. There's a lot of things people don't know about USA Cycling that can scare them now because of that. Like, I had all the research done and said, wait, you should be scared because their insurance is here. You need this much more to protect yourself. And guess what? It's cheaper. So that's why.
How is that? How's that possible? I mean, I believe it. I'm just wondering.
Because it is. I don't know why it's possible, because the market says it's here. So I go to a broker, and that broker goes out and researches it, and then when he comes back, I go to my friend and say, hey, check these policies out, make sure they're compatible. And see, this is good. So I make sure I can sleep at night. Because I saw promoters get sued because somebody hit a line, knocked over, hit their head. Sorry, we don't cover that. It's like, wait a minute, they thought they were covered. So there's a lot of things USA Cycling doesn't cover, nobody knows about. Because insurance is that complex. So unless you get involved with it, the only reason why I did that, I left USA Cycling to do my own. Now I want to come back because JD's going to do a great job this year. And we're going to try to build them back up again. But that's what we need. We need honesty from the USA Cycling. Said, hey, if you can make minimum, great. You don't have to get our insurance. You don't have to pay the $360. Because there's no difference if I have 100 riders or I have 1,000 riders. You still don't charge me $360 per rider. It's still the same thing. There's nothing changing.
So, is this one of your smaller
options, transparency? The particulars aren't, but the big picture stuff, you know, when we talk about transparency and trust and that relationship, like, are we all, going back to conspiracy, are we on the same page? Like, we're all working for the same goals, like, and if we're not, let's be open about that, because it's, for us, we don't know. So we want to, you know, at least in my, going through the small group thing is, the first thing is we want to clarify that relationship. And I've always asked for a roadmap or a plan or where's USA Cycling going? You know, are we a partner? Are we valued? Or is it, are we just kind of like off in the corner doing our own thing? Because that's fine, but then we're going to go do our own thing. But you know,
I guess I'm new and all, but my understanding is that that's what the money that goes to LAs is for, is to work to develop and further resources at the local level, right?
Yeah. We don't get enough to do all of the things that you're asking us to do. If all of these things, you know, when we get to the growing of this work thing, we're talking about creating resources and programming. I couldn't do this job for, you know, they asked me to do this job for the LA money the first time, and I said no. And so
let's get back to the relationship part. What would you like to consider yourself to be in relation to USA?
So,
LA?
Ideally, in LA, and anybody should jump into this just real quick. We should talk to JD. JD talks on our part to USA Cycling. That's how it should work.
Kind of our congressman.
That's right.
But in terms of our relationship, should we be partners? Are they an extension of us? How does that work? How do you guys want it to work?
The way we almost spoke way else. That before NEBRA even started, we were going to say, screw that because you're not taking care of us. We're paying you all kinds of money. What are you doing? Not giving us anything other than here's your license, go and race, and here's some rules you can go by. And then it says, hey, we're going to start NEBRA. We're going to start policing ourselves. And we're taking care of our own races, taking care of our own permits, went with a local person. That person went to USA Cycling, made sure everything was working fine. And at some point, it started fading away a little. And USA Cycling started saying, hey, we're the big guy up here. You need to do this, this, and this. Oh, by the way, anybody you're working with, we're going to get rid of. We're going to do it ourselves so we can make money. Or I don't know what they want to do. But to push out other vendors like Bike Bridge out of our way. What we need to do is, hey, you guys are the big brothers. Show us what you want us to do for the big picture, and we'll do it. Because we one of the bigger groups, I think, throughout the nation, this little pocket, we're very good at making good races coming out of this little area. So why slow us down or prohibit us? And the only way you're gonna do that is not have any races. The promoters won't put races on, you can't get people to race, you can lose everybody. So take care of everybody. We've been doing it for years without any help. We got some help that worked out great. We had that when we had Tom Vincent. He had the big stick hitting everybody. Everybody got mad, but it worked. And then it went to the USA Cycling more and started fading away. Everybody's at each other. You gotta get back and have meetings like this, get things working. Once we start working again, I guarantee everything moves up. And then USA Cycling comes down with all kinds of rules that we had no impact. It's like, hey, your juniors, don't worry about the juniors. They can go leave your club anytime they want. Before the person had to sign up. I don't know if the logistics or what, but by doing so, I can show you that number and it died down. New England, all the juniors dropped dramatically. We used to have field to 100 plus juniors. You're lucky to get 20. And that's all because no club wants to take a junior on, train them, and then to see, hey, I got a jersey for you, they run to another club. That's how easy it is to move. That was just one rule. Cat 5, we have it was 50, now it's up to 75. As a promoter, sorry, you can only put 75 riders into your club. It's because of safety. I got a lot of data that shows not. I put 150, 180 beginner riders in. There's no difference in crashes or anything else. So why prohibit these Cat 5s that want to go racing? Because that's your biggest group. Now I'm dwindling because you can only have 75 in a race.
So we can have a segment in our small work group specific to rules that you guys want to change. So just in general, if you have general topics you want related to the,
Send
we can
send
bring
it to
them
me,
up.
and I can bring them up in that local group. And this sort of, what's this relationship look like is the focus of our next call, that's next Monday, we're gonna have with Stuart. And I think, from what Gary said, and I think from what everybody in the room feels like, we want grassroots and regional racing to be pretty much run in the survey. We want to have the ability to step up to NRC and UCI things, but it should be a smooth transition. So at some point, events pass beyond the LA and go into the national scene, and there's a nice continuum from grassroots all the way up to pro racing.
It should be.
And not this, everything's done by the LA, and then we have the NRC events.
So why is it, I mean, I guess I just misunderstood, but I thought that that's how it already was, that the LAs worked closely.
So we do, the question is, we have done such a good job of it and done so much with so little for so long. All of a sudden, we started getting all these extra fees and rules and regulations, but we didn't get any value, we didn't get any benefit. So the things we need to get from USA Cycling, we need to get value, we need to get.
So what
So
does that look like?
what does
value?
What value do we want? When you pay, you pay for your license, you should get better perks. You should get more access to your information easier. For promoters, you should get more demographic information. You should get those surveys, those tools that allow you to gain more information about how to promote your race. We need race director certification in those CEUs. We need relevant programming for us. If all of that stuff is supposed to be created by the LA needs the resources to do that.
If you see perks, like give an example.
So
You would fly on the plane without spending $175.
right, we used to get bike vouchers on United Airlines. You can take your bike for free.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish United Airlines on any place, so let's set that aside.
Agreed.
But it seems that, what is USA Cycling positioned well to deliver in terms of value? And for example, the certification program seems that you don't want to source that to all the different regions, right? You want a program that sits in place that can be accessed by people across the country. You have the webinars, which is another value add that, again, you're not going to have each individual place. Now, if we want to develop our own webinar, we should be able then to feed it upstream
Sure, I'll
to,
take it.
to USAC. Also, providing a one-stop shopping for race directors in regions that don't have the know-how of insurance, that don't have a bike race. You can go to these other places. Or we also provide this service as well if you want to use ours and a fair competition standpoint. That's fine too, because those are values that I think USAC can offer at a national level. But it seems that USAC is trying to figure out what business it's in. Right? Is it in the race results ranking business? Is it in the registration business? Is it in the, training business? What business is it in? What business should it be in? And if it is going to go into a business, is it going to go into that business in a way that is mindful of the local impact it's going to have so that it doesn't contravene its other mission, which is to promote cycling? And so that's where I think a lot of confusion comes is, what is USAC's role in business and what's the best suited to do? And I think as an organization, your small groups, that's something that can be seriously discussed. Are we in the business to promote international talent? Because we can help develop it, but we can't necessarily get it to where it needs to go. So is that the primary business of USAC's? What's the role? I think we kind of know what our role is here locally, and I think that some of the stuff that's been discussed here is great, but some of it is also, we're already doing that. We don't need USAC to do that. And if USAC does do that, we certainly don't need them to say, you have to use ours. Some regions might need that kind of assistance. And I'm sure they'd be very thankful for it. Other regions don't, and we should be allowed then to say, okay, we don't need that. Thank you very much. It's very nice of you. But we're going to do this instead. And shouldn't feel like we're being penalized for doing so.
And one big cherry on the top would be for the Nationals that way. For the Nationals that way. We put a bid in, it's a viable bid for anything, the juniors, the masters, or the seniors. We have a big racing body here. Process, yeah.
So have y'all been for stuff and you didn't get it? Is that what you're saying?
In 1984, the Lakeside Bike Race was the national championship.
I'll also say that I know there's been a number of cities in USA Cycling Network, Burlington, Vermont, for hosting Masters Nationals, and cities declined it. They looked at it carefully, and that doesn't make sense. So I'm not going to totally blame New England on that. I think there's proposal.
Well, I have one question, Jamie. We're talking about a lot of things, and it concerns me. It seems like people don't have information. And you guys have monthly phone calls with Gordon. Do you guys discuss these kinds of things?
So for me, the month I've just started in a monthly phone calls with Gordon. Actually, the regular LA phone call, we've talked about a few of those things. Things like the beginner race program, which we haven't had one of those moved in yet. That's the sort of stuff I'd like to see. That's value right there. A standard how to race.
There's a webinar for free on our website that tells you all about it.
But a standard, one of the questions I always get is, I'm a 5, I want to be a 4. How do I do that? There should be having a curriculum where people can learn how to be a bike racer is huge. We didn't get that until this year, so that's something that's really good. The Nationals is actually a really big thing for a lot of riders. So making sure that I know it needs to go to a city that wants it, but getting more of our riders to Nationals, making that something that they want to do is important. I mean, I always look at triathlon a little bit, and I'm like, there's so many qualifiers and states and regionals. That sort of structure is something that we can really use. We can use help with, we get like a box of medals for state championships. But if there was tiers of events, if you could have rather than local race and RC race, if you could have that tier of events, there was a structure in place where that could step up and be like, we're regional championships, and this is going to be
But don't those already exist?
They exist, but there's no, we get them out, we don't.
But also that's the local, that's what you guys do. Y'all put on the races at the local level.
Right, but if there was a regional, like, more than like East Coast, or if we got some sort of, you know, if we got collateral for the race, like, if we were able to make the race better, if we had signage and banners and, you know, brochures, and have a sign from the USA Cycling license. We used to get mailed a big pack of stuff that we could hand out to people. We used to get mailed a newsletter flyer. We used to do banners. USA Cycling sent me banners. Yeah.
Banners.
That was just, that was in USA Cycling.
Yeah.
USA.
But it is, you know, if there were those options that we could pick from, like we want to order banners, we want to get these things made to cover our race, that would be huge if we had more perks to the license that we can actually use. I look at that USA Tribe magazine that comes every month, and there's like discounts and deals. You actually get a magazine mailed to your house. It's paper. Yeah.
How much is a USAT license?
$45.
And what does that enable you to do?
Race any USA Triathlon license lets you get to that.
I had one, it's expired. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same stuff, but you know, it's, I was actually thinking, would it, and this is maybe for a small discussion group, is it worth trying to put down benefits that are more regional? Because, you know, looking at the back of my license, yeah, Hertz rent a car, or whatever, I'm not traveling or any rent a car, and other stuff that has no value. If there was something that was a local partner, you know, other than the national partners that you guys have, does that make sense in any kind of way? Make the license have more value to those who are holding that on a local level. It isn't not going to fly United, you know, penalty of death, or take a Hertz rental car, or whatever else is out. I don't even know our benefits are. I don't even look at it, and I'm never going to use it.
That's where I come in, you know this area more than we do. And it's certainly look at that.
But there's local.
Yeah.
The local communicate up. I mean, I don't know the mechanism. Maybe it's too complicated to
So
actually.
look at it in terms of how we can help bring it. And we understand that we need money in order to grow more and that's why we brought up the smaller groups. But I think we'll have better direction or idea what our groups are compare all of different allies' needs and sort of come to a compromise, like instead of giving attention to one ally versus another.
Maybe it's as simple as, you know, present your USA cycling license at these, you know, bike shops to get 10% off. And they have partner bike shops. I mean, I don't know.
They used to do that.
So the question for us, this is local stuff, like if we're going to go out and get these, if we're going to get a sponsor, like my gosh, say it. And then you say something. It is hard to know if we go out and do that, are we not going to get stepped on that way? Because
When it comes to recruiting,
always the question.
when it comes to recruiting local sponsors, it has to be done.
It has to be done at the local level, but at some point, we're going to want to like get Strand as a big sponsor, and then Shimano sponsors USA Cycling.
Performance bike.
Performance bike, you know, that was always a big thing, like performance bike, local bike shops, like that is that.
How can we get both? Not that, and I'm just listening.
We can, I don't know.
I think we can, but it's, the worry was, and is, USA Cycling mandates the use of a particular sponsored product. Or, you know, one of the big things when we talked about the nationals was there was so much stuff putting in a nationals bid that you had to use USA Cycling specific vendors to use USA Cycling registration services. Someone was like, the race director standpoint, it's like, well, bother doing that. I can't make any money. Because the only thing I'm going to get out of this is a percentage of the entry fees. It's not profitable to do. So I guess I just would rather see that relationship be a little bit more clearly defined, so we know who's doing what. Like, if we're going to do that local work, like, give some resources to do it, money to do it, like, and make a commitment to us rather than we're going to give you a rebate, and then it's only going to apply to these cross-sectional licenses, and you're only going to get a bonus if you increase this percent. It's also it's like
that's why. Well, that's why we brought it up, and the idea is that as long as the LA can prove to USA Cycling that they are indeed, like, let's say you want a rebate for officials, if you can come to us and say these are the programs we're putting in place, and in order to grow the amount of officials, then yes, you know, we will definitely look at giving a rebate. And it's also that, but it's also trying to be fair to everyone else in the United States, all the other local associations, and listen to what they want.
Oh, I think the deal should apply to everybody. The same, it should be even across the board.
We agree. So that's why within the smaller groups, the hope is that we come to within the LA agreement in 2016 to be sort of across the board what everyone agrees to, and we're open to any idea on and how the LA wants to be rebated. It's just a matter of how do you prove that you're actually working to grow clubs or grow riders.
Just a quick question, it should be the other way around. We're already proven that we have the riders, the races, and everything else. Where USA Cycling are approved to us, they can help us. Because we're paying you guys money. Why can't you have that? Because these are just working here. We need the money. We used to have a person full-time paid by USA Cycling to do that job. Now we have to take the money out of the small portion of crumbs and throw it away to do it and tell, hey, he has to raise the money now for his own salary next year. That's not a good decision for him. Instead of saying, working for us, instead of chasing other things down he needs to, we need the help. Okay, fine, here's half the money. Because what are you guys doing with half the money? You're saying you have to get the juniors up, send people internationally. Okay, how much does that cost them? What is it going to cost? Are there other ways that USA can do that? Because our little region over here can run pretty good by itself if we didn't have you guys. That's what it came down to. But if we do work with you, let's work as a happy family. Not where, hey, we have all the money, get the rings. No, this is what we're going to do. You see what we're doing. Okay, don't say, well, you have to prove this, and this before we give you the pennies. No, that's not the way it should work. It should be, hey, you guys are doing great. We're going to give you more money. If you ask for more, you're doing great things, we keep giving you more.
Yeah, and this is, I'm gonna, I think, change directions a little bit from this point. Something Mike said that reminded me of it. When I was a member of the USCF, I knew what every other card-carrying member of the USCF was interested in. They were interested in motor racing. When I see people in the USA Cycling licenses, I don't have a clue what they're interested in anymore. Are they interested? Are they what seems to be the dying faction of road racing folks? Are they what seems to be still the growing and vibrant cyclocross community? Are they the new things that I can't figure out why you would pay money to participate in things you could just do on your own with your own bike on a weekend? I need to know what your membership is interested in doing in this region. So what are members of USA Cycling interested in for competitive events, for events in New England? And if I can't answer that, and you asked me earlier, Cindy, if I surveyed my riders, they're not my riders, they're your members as a national organization. So I would love to see a breakdown of the demographic of here is what the racers across the spectrum of ages and spectrum of categories are interested in for events in New England. And you're the folks who should put that together.
I'm going to put that on my list because you're right.
Yeah, we hear that feedback a lot, and we do. I actually personally, I do want to be able to provide that information quality, and I think it's actually, we were talking earlier, that you guys should be able to go on our website and actually search for these specific stats yourself, instead of giving us. So we'll definitely take that back. I agree, but that's a good point.
I think there is a way for USAC to end up helping out the LAs and promoters on a smaller scale. Is that the partners that you guys have, say like Sierra Nevada, Gatorade, Shimano, that I don't know what the tournaments are that you guys have partnerships with them, but if there's a way that you were able to send to each LA contact for the companies that you guys work with, and have the LAs get in touch with those sponsors at the local level to promote events, that they will be doing something more than just putting a little logo on USAC website, that they're able to actually go out to the LAs and actually interact with their future or current consumers, and that would also end up helping promoters by saying Shimano put on a women's clinic. Sierra Nevada sponsoring juniors field and that, but
maybe not a good one.
Right. But is there a way to take your partnerships and help the LAs and promoters at a lower level? And there's something where you would bring more racers in at the entry level, like juniors and women, of which this area needs most of, because I think that's experience in dwindling. So starting at the lower level, have your people come help us at a small level.
So what you would want would be contact information, so you could contact them and talk to them about working with you at your race. Or
yeah, and maybe there's a way where the partnership that you guys have with them, and how do you work it out? I'm sure you're receiving cash or product or this, but how about, hey, would you go and, instead of sending money one way or the other, go on the local level, talk to, people in your area to promote events, because that's more so the exposure that I want, rather than just a local website.
When I hear these kinds of things, I just really am encouraged about the small groups that you're coordinating and moderating, because I think that it boils down to communication. Because this is simple communication, and I think it's excellent. So, and I think that the communication, the groups that you're listening with the small group and the large group, if the LA participants take advantage of that, it brings up these kinds of things that you guys are saying, because how simple is that to ask for contact information, but maybe you never asked that before, and I think those kinds of things can come up in those meetings, and an ongoing basis, not just on the big stuff that you guys are talking about right now, but as the time goes by, and like I said, there's monthly meetings now, but it seems like maybe those aren't used to the best that they could be.
I mean, we have it's a 1-hour call. We get updates from the working groups, and maybe a few new things from the board each month, but it's not a spectacular news by any means.
And that's why we started this. I mean, we're obviously starting with the bigger idea topics this month because it's our first meeting. But as we go along, if you guys have other suggestions or want to get into a little nitty-gritty of specific topics, let JD know. Work it out.
And so how much of what's going on in those LA working group or those LA phone calls am I allowed to distribute to the membership? When we talk about things that might be potentially.
I don't think anything's secret. I don't think anything's secret.
Yeah, we want you to share.
Michael will tell you.
Not the insurance information.
Except that, yeah.
Then, yeah, I'll definitely start sending that out to you guys.
I can see you guys are new. Go back in the 90s, UCF at the point It was all books. And it had everything from coaching, putting on races, everything you could think of was in that book. And they also had a VHS tape as you run down to your local news group and you get it to them and they will play it.
Oh, a marketing thing.
The whole thing. It was all in one little package. It's a big red book. So see if you can find one of those, hang around. And now that we have the technology, just throw in the technology, YouTube, whatever. So we can run down the local news and say, hey, this is what's going on. Makes it much easier for us. And that's what the national should be doing, is doing it for the nation. Hey, get on Bike Week. They should be sending all kinds of stuff out. They should be promoting for us. If not, sending it to now JD and say, hey, get this out, it's Bike Week, Bike Month, whatever. How about the kids? Do whatever you gotta do, promote cycling. Because we don't have the Lancers anymore to promote us. So everybody thinks cycling and racing is all druggies and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We gotta change that.
Yeah.
And there is New England now, but they're not mostly cycling. They're dirt racing and all this stuff that aren't mostly cycling. They're having more fun. So it's like, let's advertise our group, promote this, bring it back into our segment. So it helps us as promoters get a little more base to work.
Sounds good.
It is 9:45, and we've run pretty long, and just wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up on is something you have babies at home.
I just want to say one thing. You asked earlier about if our goals are aligned, and I think they are. I think to a person, everyone I work with, we want the same things, but I think that the issue is there's a huge disconnect in communication. And people feel slighted and like their voice is not heard. And from when I was with NEBRA, it was like, oh, guess what we're doing? This is the new rule. This is how it is now. And there was no communication. And I know that there's a huge effort to change that. And I hope that changes things a lot. Because it's just a matter of time figuring out what people need and want and how we can work together.
I don't think it's a disconnect because we've been around for people that have been around for years and years and years, and we talk straight to the people. There's no disconnect. It's information to give back. So just be fair, honest, and everything up front. We want a problem. But 2 years from now, we come back and say, wait, you said this, and now it's all wrong. That's why people have that disconnect. We've been to Colorado. We sat in these big meetings, and they told us all this good stuff. Next thing you know, wait, why isn't it coming true? So that's why these racers are doing these things. Say, hey, I did this. I should be able to do this. Sorry, that's not the way it works. So that's where the disconnect comes from. Just do that. Just tell us what you're doing. Don't have to hide behind anything. And we're going to work. We're all working for the same cause. People on bikes race. That's all. If you do that, it'll last a lot longer. Because this company's starting to crumble in. Everybody's scattering. You don't need that. You need to bring it back and be happy.
Because we like to put on races. Whoever said that while ago, that's it.
We like to do it for 30 years of racing.
So thanks so much for getting out. I know you're tied to city, but it's a school night, long way. It's a school night. I know.
Did you teach tomorrow?
I won't be teaching much.
The art of the short rest.
Yeah. JP, John, I want to thank you for bringing everybody together. Obviously, you said the catalyst, but more dialogue among the promoters, just absolutely something.
Early.
Yeah, well, and we're gonna have more meetings, and not just. I don't think I want to do one big meeting where everybody has to. I want to do regional meetings and small and stuff because I want to get as many people talking as we can. So we start talking about scheduling and things like that.
Was this bit not only broadcast, was it also recorded?
That's a great question.
Yeah, probably not
I forgot to
recorded.
volunteer to take minutes.
Oh, it's not recorded?
Well,
It's a long walk in there.
Yeah.
Google, it may be.
The NSA has.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But yeah, thanks. This is huge. And also, thank you guys for being our board members.
Yeah, I can't, that's a conflict.
But thank you anyway.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you for supporting
Being
the
here,
board.
being your, the female.
Two.
Thanks, everybody.
Cool.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thanks, Alan.
Good night to our viewers.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.